God of Choice System. If you enjoy the content on this channel, join me on Patreon to get faster updates and suggest novels you'd like to see. Chapter 331. Traveling alone in the forest, Allan's eyes were on full alert. The world of Naruto was dangerous and ninjas walk around everywhere. If currently, the world was in the period of the Great Ninja Wars, any of them, he would be involved and it will be troublesome. Since he didn't want to get attacked suddenly, Allan spread his in a radius of 50 meters. If anyone approached him within a 50 meters radius, he would detect them easily. While heading east of the forest, he felt an abnormal vibration in the ground. He quickly put his hand down to determine from which direction the vibration came. The only possibility for this kind of tremor here is a ninja battle. He just crossed over and needs to know where and what timeline he was currently in. He directly teleported toward the battle, since he can very well as whoever is there for information. Allan arrived at the top of a tree and looked down. The ground was dusty as if there was a battle a second ago. There should have been a cave there, but the cave seemed to have collapsed due to some kind of explosion. Not far away from the collapsed cave, a man in a grey vest appeared. The man stared at the cave and sneered, "You three brats wanted to bury me, although you prevented me from completing my mission, I get to kill you, which is worth it." After speaking, the man turned around from the cave and sat down to rest. He took a water bottle and started drinking. He seemed to come out of a battle and he wasn't in a good state. Allan stared at the man's forehead protector, and judging from the symbol on it, this ninja was part of the rock village. The three brats that the ninja spoke of should be Kakashi, Obito, and Rin, right? Allan's expression changed slightly. Then it should be the third ninja great war currently, and this should be the Konobe Bridges battle. In this battle, the rock village led an army to attack the fire country, and Namikaze Minato led Hitaki Kakashi, Uchiha Obito, and Nohara Rin to support the defense. The team was divided into two. Minato went as support in the front line, and the rest went to sneak in and blow up the Konobe Bridge to cut the rock's line of supply. After sneaking behind the enemy line, Kakashi and the rest were attacked by the rock ninjas. After a fierce fight, Rin was kidnapped by the rocks and Kakashi lost an eye and Obito obtained his Sharingan. After that, both boys went to rescue Rin and they fought inside a cave against the rock ninjas. Although they successfully rescued Rin, one of the rocks managed to escape out of the cave using the double suicide decapitation technique and blew the cave up, causing a cave-in. As Kakashi and the others were escaping, a huge rock fell down, and with Kakashi's new blind spot due to his eye loss, he couldn't dodge in time, which made Obito sacrifice himself to get Kakashi out of the way, and while Obito got half his body crashed under the rock. The next part should be where Kakashi gets his Sharingan from Obito and then kills the rock ninja. Allan looked at the rock ninja before narrowing his eyes. He still didn't know what he should do honestly. He may have a good relationship with Konoha if he interferes. He also wants to avoid getting hunted by the rock nins in the future, since that would be troublesome. Chapter 332. Who is there? Just when Allan was thinking about his next move, the rock jonin noticed Allan standing on the tree and he became vigilant. Allan didn't hide himself at all. Since he was discovered, he simply jumped down before disappearing and arriving beside the other party. Fast. Seeing Allan cross 10 meters in an instant, the jonin took a defensive stance. "Let me ask you something, are the three brats you're talking about Konoha shinobi?" Allan asked. Although he already guessed this, Allan still wanted to make sure of this. However, the jonin didn't answer Allan's question. Instead he asked, "Who are you?" The reason for asking this is simple. He didn't see Allan wearing a forehead protector, and he couldn't guess to which side he belonged. Another point was Allan's speed, which shouldn't be something a genin or a chunin have. Allan smiled, "Don't be nervous, I'm not a ninja from Konoha, just a passerby." Passerby? Obviously, the jonin didn't believe him. The atmosphere got intense and any move would start a battle. At this time, the system gave Allan a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Participate in the Konobe Bridge plot and kill the rock ninja. Reward, rock clone jutsu. 2. It doesn't matter, just stay away from the original plot. Reward, suffering. Allan directly chose the first option. The first reason was the reward of the second choice, and the second reason was, by doing this, he can interact with the main characters of the world, which should trigger more choices. As long as it's profitable, there is no harm in participating in the ninja war, right? Since he wasn't someone from this world, anything he does will interfere with the plot anyways, so he should just do whatever his heart tells him and be happy. At this time, the rock jonin felt that Allan was about to make a move, and decided to make the first attack. As a jonin, he wasn't weak. With his experience and power, he put the just promoted Kakashi in a hard life and death situation and almost took Obito's life. He was confident in his close combat and speed. He took 2 kunaus from his waist and waved them at Allan. However, his attack failed as Allan disappeared. The jonin's expression changed slightly as he thought, body flicker. The body flicker was a move all strong ninja mastered. As a jonin from the rock village, he also can use this move, but Allan's speed has exceeded everything he knew about that jutsu. Allan seemed to have disappeared, he even hid his aura. Where the hell is he? The jonin's eyes were full of vigilance as he looked around. I'm behind you. The jonin directly swung his arms without hesitation as soon as he heard the voice. But unfortunately, there was no one there. Damn! Is it the body flicker again? Allan's speed was too much for him, he couldn't see his shadow, let alone touch him. It's not the body flicker technique, it's teleportation. Allan's voice once again sounded beside his ears, but this time, it was accompanied with a strong killing intent. The jonin was startled, just as he was about to wave his blade, a transparent line passed over his neck and in the next second, his head fell down. Ding! Congratulations on killing the rock jonin and participating in the Konobe Bridge plot, your reward is rock clone, advanced. In an instant, the information about the ninjutsu entered Allan's mind like a warm wave and he directly mastered it. However, since Allan has yet to learn how to refine chakra, he couldn't use any ninjutsu yet. Chapter 333. After dealing with the rock ninja and receiving the reward, Allan revealed a satisfied smile. The ninja techniques used in Naruto can be compared to the ninjutsu in the hunter world. Allan smiled and moved toward the collapsed cave. Kakashi and the others should be here. At this moment, the blockade on the cave exploded and a figure rushed out. Silver hair, a black mask, a short sword, and a blood-stained Sharingan from Uchiha Obito. The Sharingan confirmed that this was Kakashi Hatake. Although he is still young, he was easily recognizable. Kakashi saw Allan standing outside and immediately showed hostility. He thought Allan was an enemy ninja and attacked. Wait right there, I'm not your enemy. Allan avoided Kakashi's attack as he explained. Kakashi didn't listen and continued attacking Allan like crazy. With the Sharingan, Kakashi's visual reflexes and reaction time were greatly enhanced, but he still couldn't follow Allan's movement. Allan got tired of this and directly sent Kakashi flying with a palm strike. Kakashi spat a mouthful of blood and glared at Allan with killing intent. Allan didn't give Kakashi any chance to attack as he directly appeared beside him in an explosion of speed and snatched his short sword before grabbing him by the neck. Calm down, I'm not your enemy. Hearing Allan's words, Kakashi finally calmed down a little after struggling for a few seconds. Seeing that he was no longer making a fuss, Allan let him go. Kakashi instantly distanced himself and stared at Allan. Allan raised his finger and pointed far away. Kakashi looked in that direction and noticed a rock ninja dead on the ground. You killed him? Kakashi's expression changed as he saw the enemy ninja dead on the ground. Allan didn't deny it and said, yes, I killed him. Kakashi asked with some doubt, are you the reinforcement from Konoha? Allan shook his head, I'm not a ninja, I'm just a passerby who happened to pass by here. Passerby? Obviously, Kakashi didn't believe him, but he had no way to confirm Allan's identity. At this time, a girl's voice rushed from the cave. Kakashi, what's wrong? This was Rin Nohara without a doubt. Kakashi stepped toward the cave and replied, that rock ninja was killed, I will go down and save Obito. Obito was trapped inside the cave, half of his body was covered by a large rock, and his left eye was tightly closed as blood gushed out of it. Kakashi, use that Sharingan wisely, make your name known throughout the world, Obito said weakly. Kakashi replied gloomily, Obito, hold on, I will save you. Obito said weakly but stubbornly, don't worry about me Kakashi, I know my current situation, I'm already dead, you take Rin and quickly leave, this is an enemy's territory, if you don't leave soon, none of us will be able to leave here. How could Kakashi leave Obito just like that? But while he was hesitating, the enemy's reinforcement arrived. Several rock ninjas surrounded the cave, and even Allan was considered an enemy. Oh, this is getting troublesome. Allan glanced at the rock ninjas and thought, do I help Kakashi and the others? At this time, the system once again gave him a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Kill all rock ninjas here, reward, Mysterious Ninjutsu Chest X1. 2. Escaping is the best strategy, leave Kakashi and the others to fend for themselves, reward, Fuma Shuriken X1. After just a second, Allan decisively picked the first option. At the moment Allan made his choice, a dozen or so ninjas from the rock village attacked. Earth Release, Earth Spear. Dozen of earth spears sprung forth from the ground with great force. The rock ninjas planned on burying everyone here. Chapter 334. More than a dozen rock ninjas used the rock spear technique on Allan and the others, which made the already almost collapsed cave to shake. Seeing that the crisis was imminent, Allan made a decisive move and instantly created a barrier and blocked all the spears that rushed toward everyone. This was a space ability developed by Allan using the space law to create a barrier. Simply put, it creates a barrier that could block attacks, which currently did its job and protected Kakashi and the others. Kakashi was surprised at Allan's power and the ease he blocked the attack. Even a dozen of ninjas attacking together couldn't penetrate his barrier, which made them all look in disbelief at the amazing sight. Without waiting for the ninjas to attack again, Allan disappeared using his space power and, in a few seconds, he killed all the rock ninjas. The system directly delivered Allan's reward. Ding! You have successfully killed all rock ninjas. You received a mysterious ninjutsu chest X1. Seeing that Allan killed all the rock ninjas, Kakashi said, "You're strong." "I'm all right," Allan shrugged with indifference. In fact, those rock ninjas were nothing to Allan. Kakashi said seriously, "No matter what, I have to thank you for this time. Without you, we would be in danger." Allan waved his hand and said, "Okay, let's go see your friend." Kakashi nodded and then returned to the cave. Allan followed after him and saw Nohara Rin, who was with Obito with half his body under a boulder. Obito looked really pale. Kakashi raised his right hand and an electric current emerged as he tried to break the boulder. "Rin, step back, I will try to break this rock. Is that okay?" Rin's expression was filled with concern. "There is no other way. If we want to bring Obito to Konoha to receive treatment, we have to do this," Kakashi said anxiously. Obito was already struggling with his breaths. However, when Kakashi is about to use his Reikiri on the boulder, Allan stopped him and said, "Let me do this. Using Reikiri can cause damage to your companions. I have a way to remove the rock from the top of your friend without hurting him." Hearing this, Kakashi was doubtful, but then remembered that Allan easily dealt with the rock ninjas. He could only trust Allan. "Okay, you do it." Allan nodded. He stepped forward and raised his hand, and pressed his palms against the huge rock on top of Obito. He put his index and middle finger together and placed them on the side of his forehead. In the next instant, Allan and the huge rock disappeared in an instant. Allan appeared in the woods a kilometer away. Instant transmission. After that, Allan used the law of space once again and teleported back. Seeing Allan suddenly reappearing, Kakashi and Rin, along with Obito, looked in disbelief at Allan. Kakashi curiously asked, "Why did you suddenly disappear with the rock? How did you reappear here?" Allan shrugged, "I just teleport with the rock, then teleport back." Hearing this, Kakashi quickly understood, "So, you have an ability like Minato Sensei's Flying Thunder God." Allan said, "Did you mean Minato Namikaze? You know him?" Kakashi was a little surprised. Allan smiled lightly, "Who doesn't know the Konoha Yellow Flash?" "That's true," Kakashi nodded. Allan said, "Well then, what are you going to do now? Although I have helped you move the rock away, your friend's injury is too severe and he won't be able to make it far in that state." Kakashi said seriously, "Since you can teleport, can you take Obito to Konoha?" Allan shook his head and said, "No, I have a limit to the distance which I can teleport, and this place is far away from here, and also, I didn't visit Konoha before and I can't be there without visiting at least once." "Then what should I do?" Kakashi looked worried. Allan replied, "Your friend is seriously injured and moving him will aggravate his condition. The best way is to invite a professional here." Kakashi nodded and said to Rin, "Rin, there should be a medical unit on the front line. I will go there and get them to save Obito. You stay here with him." Rin said, "I know Kakashi, go ahead and come back quickly, be careful out there." "Yeah." Then Kakashi turned and looked at Allan and said, "Although I don't know your name yet, can I trouble you to protect my friends?" Ding! Make a choice. 1. Promise Kakashi to take care of Obito and Rin until he gets back. Reward, Lightning Chakra Nature. 2. Reject Kakashi and teleport away. Reward, 1 Explosive Tag. Allan picked the first choice and nodded to Kakashi, "Go, I will stay here, as long as I'm here, I can guarantee that no one will be able to hurt them, but you have to come back quickly or your friend won't survive." "Well, thank you, I will come back as fast as I can." After saying this, Kakashi left the cave with a body flicker and went toward the front lines. Chapter 335. When Kakashi went to the front line looking for a medic ninja, Allan squatted down outside the cave to protect Obito and Rin. This place was under the rock ninjas, and since the Konobe bridge was less than a kilometer away, Allan decisively opened the mysterious ninjutsu chest. Immediately, the system gave him a notification. Ding! You've opened a mysterious ninjutsu chest, and you have obtained Chakra Refinement. Basic Academy 3. Multiple Shuriken. Allan was ecstatic since he obtained the Chakra Refinement finally, but he didn't expect that he would also get the Academy 3. Only by refining Chakra can Allan use various ninjutsu. Allan has the Uzumaki Chakra cells, as long as he starts extracting Chakra, his reserve would be immense. Because he had a good foundation, which is nin techniques, Allan quickly started the Chakra Refinement successfully. After Chakra refining for a while, Allan tried to use ninjutsu, which he didn't have a lot of. Allan tried using the mud clone, and with one attempt, he successfully used it. This meant that Allan had an earth chakra nature, along with the lightning chakra nature he obtained from the system. Soon, Kakashi came back, and along with him, came a woman and a man, wearing green vests. The man had yellow hair and blue eyes, which was undoubtedly Minato Namikaze. As for the female ninja, she was very beautiful, a blonde with a crystal necklace around her neck. She was Tsunade Senju, one of the Sannin. After learning about Obito from Kakashi, Minato brought the best to treat his student. Tsunade arriving here means that Obito would very likely live through, as the best medical ninja in the world, she should be able to help Obito. At this time, Minato and Tsunade noticed Allan protecting the cave, which made Minato step forward. "Hello, I'm Minato Namikaze, I have heard from Kakashi that you saved them, and we're here to protect them, thank you very much." Allan waved his hand and said, "It's a trivial matter, you're welcome, but you should quickly look at your student." Minato nodded and said to Tsunade, "Tsunade-sama, please help Obito." As they walked into the cave, they saw Obito on the ground with Rin holding his hand. Obito looked pale and weak, his left eye was tightly closed since he gave it to Kakashi. Minato said with remorse, "I'm sorry, Obito, I was late." Seeing Obito like this made Minato filled with guilt, as their sensei, he didn't protect his students. Obito replied weakly, "It's not your fault, Minato-sensei." Tsunade glanced at Obito and said in a strict tone, "Uchiha Obito's right half is completely crushed, his injuries are too serious, it's a miracle that he is alive, I will need to start the treatment, and it will at least need a day, in the meantime, please take care of our surroundings and don't disturb me." "I understand, please don't worry, Tsunade-sama," Minato reassured. Afterward, everyone left the cave except for Tsunade and her patient. "Sensei, will Obito be alright?" Rin asked anxiously. Minato said, "Tsunade-sama is Konoha's, no, it's the world's best medical ninja, so Obito should be fine." Kakashi said, "If it wasn't for me, Obito wouldn't have been hit by that rock, it's all my fault." Minato comforted him, "Don't worry, Kakashi, it's not your fault, there are many unexpected things that happen in battle, Obito won't blame you." Kakashi replied, "Obito has already awakened his Sharingan, when he is healed, I will return the Sharingan back to him." Allan listened to the conversation in deep thought. His actions affected the entire story, Obito won't turn into a villain which will bring unexpected changes to the world. Obito was rescued by Madara Uchiha, who made him witness Kakashi shoving a rakery into Rin's stomach, which brought him to the dark side. Now with Tsunade healing him and Minato guarding the place, it's impossible for Madara or Zetsu to get to him. And if Obito can't be taken, Madara would probably find another person to groom. All in all, because of Allan's intervention, Kakashi, Rin, and Obito's fates were changed drastically. This change in fate will affect many others, like Minato Namikaze and Madara Uchiha. This is the largest butterfly effect he caused ever, for now, he can't do anything but observe the changes he made. Chapter 336. After a while, dozens of figures appeared, surrounding Allan, Minato, Kakashi, and Rin who were protecting the cave. Minato looked at the rock ninjas calmly, before he said, "There are a lot of them. No matter how many there are, I must protect Obito. Kakashi held a kunai and stared at the enemy. I will protect him as well. Rin also took a kunai and said vigilantly. As for Allan, he didn't join them, instead, he stood not far away with his arms folded and a pondering look on his face. Since Minato was there, Allan didn't need to make a move himself. In fact, he wanted to see Minato's flying thunder god and see how it works. The rock ninjas didn't attack directly. The leader in charge of them was a burly man who recognized Minato at a glance and said, I didn't expect the yellow flash to appear here, that's really surprising, weren't you fighting in the front lines? Minato squatted down and whispered to Kakashi and Rin, Kakashi, Rin, throw the Hiraishin kunai at them, I will deal with the rest, we can't let them disturb Tsunade-sama's treatment. Got it. No problem. Kakashi and Rin replied. Following that, Minato turned around and looked at Allan again, but he didn't say anything. Allan looked at Minato and nodded at him, saying that he didn't need to worry about him. Minato understood the hidden meaning and focused on the rock ninjas. Giving Rin and Kakashi the order, both threw the kunai at the rock ninjas. Each kunai held the flying thunder god seal on the handle. According to what Allan knew about that technique, it's an instant movement technique that needs markers for the user to teleport to, an S-class space-time ninjutsu. The technique doesn't need hand seals. At this moment, Minato started teleporting toward the marked kunai that Kakashi and Rin threw. He was too fast that only a yellow flash remained with each teleport. He killed each enemy without hesitation or mercy. He didn't want to risk Obito's treatment being interrupted, therefore, they are going to be annihilated. Minato was colder than normal, and that was because he was facing rock ninjas, who almost killed his student, and now that student was fighting for his life, and no one knew if he can make it. He blamed himself for not protecting Obito but also blamed the rock ninjas for doing that to his student, so he was like a killing machine on the battlefield, no one could stop him. Although Minato could deal with everyone without a problem, the enemy was scattered through the wood, and Minato had no way to teleport and hunt them. Therefore, those who slipped through Minato will have to face Allan. As the battle started, 4 people surrounded Allan before attacking him. Allan decisively attacked, killing all of them. As for Kakashi and Rin, they guarded outside the cave, as Minato instructed. Minato's flying thunder god was so strong that he was called Yellow Flash by his allies and enemies alike, and to deal with this, the more experienced rock ninjas used the double suicide decapitation technique to avoid him. Chapter 337. The double suicide decapitation technique allowed the rock ninjas to hide under the earth and move freely without being seen. With the help of this technique, the rock ninjas escaped the flying thunder god. At this moment a rock ninja appeared quietly behind Rin. The reason why the rock ninja aimed for Rin was because she seemed the weakest here. Just when the rock ninja appeared, Kakashi noticed the danger and warned. Rin, be careful. It was too late, however, as the rock ninja attacked Rin, Kakashi wasn't close enough to defend Rin. Minato was also dealing with the rock ninja and didn't react fast enough. Just when the attack was about to reach Rin, Allan made his move. At this moment, space seemed to stagnate and time stopped flowing. This is another ability that Allan gained from the space law, which he called time stop. He can slow down time or even stop in the space he controls. Allan can't achieve a complete time stop right now, but he was close enough. The radius of this technique was 500 meters, and within that range, all people and things were affected. Of course, he can't keep the time stop active for long, he can currently activate it only for 3 seconds. Moreover, this technique put a lot of stress on his mental power, and it would take him at least 4 hours of sleep to regain his energy. The 3 seconds time stop seemed to be short, but it was more than enough to rescue Rin and kill the rock ninja. Allan only needed less than a second to save Rin. When Allan released his technique, the surrounding rock ninja, and everyone else didn't notice the anomaly, only Minato felt that the time flow seemed abnormal, but even so, he didn't know what was going on. But when they saw Rin was rescued by Allan, they sighed in relief and looked at Allan gratefully. Thank you. You're welcome. Well, can you let me go? Oh, sorry. Only then did Allan realize that he was still holding Rin in his hand. After Rin mentioned it, Allan quickly released her and continued the battle. Although Minato eliminated most enemies, there were still a few hidings below the ground, but they weren't suppressing their chakra well enough, which made Minato pinpoint their location. A blue chakra ball appeared in Minato's hand, spinning at high speed. Allan recognized the Raise Nan at a glance since he used it previously. The Raise Nan directly drilled into the ground, killing the ninja hiding there. With the Raise Nan and Flying Thunder God combo, Minato destroyed all ninjas hiding in the ground. Soon after, all enemy ninjas were annihilated. After finishing the fight, Minato came over to Allan and said, "Thank you for saving Rin just now." Allan waved his hand and said, "It's a trivial matter, don't worry, my name is Allan by the way." Minato then said, "You have helped up a lot, I don't know where you are from, Allan-san, but you're really strong, the way you fought just now makes it seem like you used something similar to the Flying Thunder God technique I use." Allan didn't hide his ability and explained, "My ability is similar to your Flying Thunder God, as it allows me to teleport around as well, as for I'm from, I am just a passerby, no special identity or residence." Minato was slightly surprised, "You have no residence and you're not affiliated with anyone? It seems like you're a wanderer." Allan was too lazy to explain that he was from another world and just nodded. "What are you going to do next?" Minato asked curiously. Allan thought for a bit and said, "I don't know, probably wherever my legs take me." Allan didn't really think about where he is going to go next. Minato saw the troubled Allan and suggested, "You helped us many times and if you don't mind, you can stay in Konoha as a guest, we welcome you there." "Go to Konoha?" Allan was stunned for a moment as he didn't expect Minato to take the initiative to invite him over. After thinking about it, Allan said, "Well, since Konoha is the strongest of the 5 great ninja villages, I'm really curious about it, since you invited me, then I'm honored to accept." "That's great," Minato smiled. Kakashi and Rin welcomed Allan as both of them were saved by him and liked him very much. Even though they didn't know who Allan was, it didn't prevent them from being grateful to him. "I don't know if Obito can make it." After dealing with the rock ninjas, Kakashi looked at the cave in worry. "Don't worry Kakashi, with Tsunade-sama here, Obito will definitively recover," Rin comforted. Chapter 338. A day passed quickly, and the rock ninjas didn't appear again. At noon the next day, Tsunade finally came out of the cave. Minato, Kakashi, and Rin immediately greeted her and asked eagerly, "Tsunade-sama, what happened to Obito's?" Tsunade's expression looked a little tired, as she had spent a lot of chakras to save Obito, but she said in a low tone, "I barely saved his life, in order to really cure him, we need to bring back Konoha as we medical equipment. Fortunately, the boy's right eye was not damaged severely, and his vision has now been restored under my treatment." Kakashi said, "Since that's the case, let me transfer Obito back to the village for treatment, time is of the essence." Tsunade looked at Minato and said, "Minato, can you use the Flying Thunder God technique to transfer Obito back to the village?" Hearing this, Minato shook his head and said, "The distance is a bit far, with my current chakra, I'm afraid I can't do it." Tsunade nodded, showing her understanding, and did not force Minato, saying, "If that's the case, then I can only let Katsuyu take Obito back to the village. Because slugs move slowly, it will take at least 2 days to get to Konoha from here. In order to ensure the safety of the road, someone needs to be an escort." Hearing this, Kakashi was the first to say, "Let me do it, I will definitely protect Obito." "I will come as well," Rin said. "What about you, Minato?" Tsunade asked. Minato Namikaze hesitated for a moment, then said, "Although I really want to escort Obito back in person, there is one more thing I need to do." After that, Minato looked at Allan who was not far away, and said, "Allan-san, since you are going to Konoha anyway, can I ask you to protect them on the way as a favor for me?" At the same time, the system gave Allan another choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Agree to Minato Namikaze's request, and escort Obito back to Konoha with Kakashi, reward, raise Nan. 2. Reject the request of Namikaze Minato, and no longer participate in the subsequent plot development, reward, 1 exploding tag. After thinking for a second, Allan decisively chose option 1 and agreed to Minato's request. "Don't worry, you have already invited me to Konoha as a guest, I will definitely protect them." Hearing Allan's answer, Minato Namikaze nodded and said, "Then I will leave it to you." Kakashi said, "Minato-sensei, are you going to complete the unfinished task that we have not completed? Blow up the Konobi Bridge." Minato Namikaze nodded, "Yes, although it's a bit late to do it now, a mission is a mission, and it must be done for the village." Hearing this, Kakashi said, "I'm sorry, sensei, this should have been my task, but now I have to trouble sensei to do it." Minato Namikaze smiled, patted Kakashi on the shoulder, and said, "I don't blame you, there are still many opportunities in the future. After that, Allan and Kakashi were responsible for escorting the slug who was transporting Obito back to Konoha. As for Namikaze Minato, he went to the Konobe bridge alone and replaced Kakashi and the others to complete the task of blowing it up. According to the arrangement, the escort team was led by Allan and Kakashi, who were responsible for clearing the way and guarding against enemy attacks. Nohara-rin and Tsunade followed the slug, taking care of Obito. On the way, they didn't encounter any danger. Although it is during the Third Ninja War, they were inside the Fire Country, the risk is much less than outside. However, the less danger there is, the more vigilant they should be. Never let your guard down just because you are not in danger. Maybe the enemy is hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Sure enough, not long after, the enemy really appeared, and the enemy who appeared this time were rock ninjas. They used an earth wall to block Allan and the others' path. They planned to encircle Allan and the others within the earth wall and deal with them. Allan told Kakashi to break the wall with the Reikari, and he took care of those rock ninjas. The two worked together very smoothly. Tsunade witnessed Allan's power for the first time. Seeing that Allan had dealt with rock ninjas so easily, she couldn't help but admire him, and at the same time, she was curious about his identity. After that, Allan and the others did not encounter any enemy again. In the afternoon of the second day, they finally arrived at Konoha. After entering Konoha, Allan completed this escort mission and also received the reward from the system, the Raise Nan. Allan wasn't that happy about receiving the Raise Nan because with his current power, the Raise Nan wasn't necessary. In fact, being able to come to Konoha village made him even more excited. Chapter 339. Walking through the streets of Konoha, Allan looked around the shops and the crowd on both sides and sighed, Konoha is really prosperous, I've come to the right place. Allan really meant his words, Konoha was really a good place filled with life and harmony. Kakashi said, welcome to Konoha, I hope you like it here. Allan nodded. The idea of living here was great as he felt comfortable in this place. However, it wasn't easy for someone not from here to join the village. Fortunately, Allan killed a few rock ninjas on the way here to bring Obito, which can give him a way to join Konoha. When the Hokage learns about this, he will definitively talk with him. Therefore, he could stay in Konoha. He also needed someone to vouch for him, and Allan thought of Minato. If Minato can vouch for him, he could stay here. Minato won't be coming back soon, so Allan wasn't in a hurry. The group arrived at Konoha's hospital to escort Obito in. Tsunade glanced at Allan, then at Kakashi, and said, Kakashi, your escort mission is completed. After rushing here for 2 days, you should take a rest. You can take Allan-san here and look for a place for him. I'm going to treat Uchiha Obito in the hospital. As for the report to Hokage-sama, Minato will do that when he gets back, so you don't have to report now. Yes, Tsunade-sama, Kakashi replied. Rin followed Tsunade into the hospital as Obito kept muttering her name, so she will be an important part of his recovery. Allan followed Kakashi out of the hospital and strolled around Konoha for a while. Kakashi asked, Allan-san, are you hungry? Let me treat you to some ramen. Good idea. Allan was getting hungry, so he agreed readily. Kakashi took Allan to a ramen restaurant which was Ichiraku Ramen for some reason. Allan ate 10 bowls before he was satisfied, which made Kakashi almost cry since he was the one paying. Allan-san, you're amazing. Kakashi said to Allan after finishing his ramen. Allan smiled and asked, where are we going now? Kakashi said, it's getting late, so how about you come to my place for tonight and I will prepare a place for you until Minato-sensei returns. Allan shrugged and said, is it convenient? Won't I be intruding? It's okay, I'm living alone and there are many vacant rooms to live in, Kakashi said. Alright then, let's go, Allan laughed. Soon after walking a few hundred meters, Kakashi entered a compound. Kakashi pushed the door open and said, come in, this is my house. Allan looked around the house and said, your family is quite rich. Kakashi replied, my father was a famous ninja and made a lot of money from missions. What happened to him? Allan asked knowingly. Kakashi's father was Konoha's White Fang, who is as strong if not stronger than the Sannin. But because he chose to save his comrades, he failed the mission and was criticized by almost everyone, which made him commit suicide, and just like that, a powerhouse fell. Soon enough, Kakashi replied, my father commit suicide because of a mission. Sorry, I asked something like that, Allan said. Kakashi shook his head and said, it doesn't matter. After that, Kakashi arranged a room for Allan. Allan will temporarily live in Kakashi's house and went to sleep. The next morning, when Allan woke up, he saw Kakashi holding a short sword and practicing in the yard. Judging from the way he was swinging his sword, Kakashi seemed proficient and his style seemed quite strong. Kakashi was young but he was well trained. After a while, Kakashi noticed Allan coming out of his room and said, "Allan-san, good morning." Allan nodded and said, "Kakashi, your swordsmanship is good." Kakashi replied, "My father left this sword for me and I'm practicing the style he taught me." "Is that so?" Allan nodded as he already guessed that Kakashi's style was taught to him by the White Fang. Kakashi asked, "Allan-san, can you be my sparring partner? I want to evaluate my swordsmanship." Ding! Make a choice. 1. Accept Kakashi's request to be his sparring partner and defeat him, reward, Ninjutsu Gift Pack X1. 2. Reject Kakashi's request, saying that you know nothing about swordsmanship and can't spare with him, reward, Ninja Kit, Shuriken, Kunao and stuff. Thinking for a second, Allan picked option 1 and agreed to spar with Kakashi. "Okay, Kakashi, I will spar with you for a while to see how good is your swordsmanship," Allan said cheerfully. Kakashi replied, "Thanks, Allan-san." Chapter 340. In the yard, Allan hooked his finger at Kakashi and said with a smile, "Okay, let's see how good is your swordsmanship." Kakashi didn't do it directly as he saw Allan was unarmed and asked thoughtfully, "Allan-san, are you fighting empty-handed? Do you want to use a weapon?" Allan didn't want to use a weapon at first but since Kakashi asked, "Is there a kunao?" Hearing this, Kakashi took out a kunao and handed it to Allan. Allan waved it a few times and said, "Even though it's the first time I use one, it feels good in my hand, can you give it to me?" "That's all right, Allan-san," Kakashi replied. "Thank you," Allan said gratefully. "Allan-san, can we start?" Kakashi asked. "Well, yes, you can attack at any time." "Then, here I come." Kakashi directly rushed forward and slashed at Allan. Allan held his kunao and blocked Kakashi's sword. Sparks flew as the metal weapons collided. Allan blocked Kakashi's first attack easily. Kakashi kept attacking Allan with everything he got, he used every attack he can use. The sound of metal colliding filled the yard as it grew intense. Kakashi was really fast, and he was also a good swordsman, ordinary ninjas won't be able to defend against him. Kakashi was already a jonin and judging from his sword style, he was already a jonin swordsman. However, facing an opponent of Allan's level, no matter how superb or strong he was, Allan could easily block his attacks. Seeing that his attacks were blocked easily by Allan, Kakashi held the sword with both hands and said, "Next, I will show you my real skills." Then, the short blade suddenly radiated white light which made Allan narrow his eyes and said, "White chakra? This is the Kenjutsu inherited from Konoha's White Fang? It looks strong." Hearing Allan mentions his father, Kakashi said, "You know my father?" Allan replied, "Only heard about him." Kakashi said, "This white chakra covering the blade is quite sharp, be careful Allan-san." Come on," Allan waved his kunao in anticipation since he wanted to see how strong the white chakra was. When the kunao and the white chakra blade collided, a crack formed on the kunao. Another light taps and it would shatter. "Allan-san, do you want to change your weapon? That kunao is cracked and will shatter soon," Kakashi said. "No, keep attacking," Allan didn't care. Seeing this, Kakashi was puzzled, but he didn't say much as he attacked again. The white chakra and kunao collided again, and unexpectedly, the kunao in Allan's hand didn't shatter as expected. "The kunao didn't break, what's going on?" Kakashi asked with a strange expression. Allan showed a mysterious smile, he used his nin to cover the kunao and make it as hard as possible. After a few more moves, Allan kicked Kakashi's sword and then sent him flying with another kick. "I won," Allan said. At the same time, Allan heard the system giving him his reward. Ding! You successfully defeated Kakashi and got a ninjutsu gift pack. Chapter 341. Allan didn't open the ninjutsu gift pack, he glanced at Kakashi and stretched his hand to pull him up then asked with concern, "Sorry, Kakashi, are you okay?" Kakashi shook his head saying that it was all right. He knew that Allan was already holding back, otherwise, that kick was enough to kill him. Kakashi said with disappointment though, "I lost, Allan you're really good." His tone seemed slightly depressed. Kakashi was the best in his age group and generation, he was a genius who hardly suffered any losses in fights. But when he faced Allan, his kenjutsu didn't have any effect on Allan, which frustrated him. At the same time, it made him realize that he wasn't strong enough yet. Allan smiled and said, "Kakashi, it's just a spar, it's not a life and death match, you don't have to be so serious." Kakashi admired Allan's mentality and strength. In his opinion, Allan shouldn't be weaker than Minato. After the fight with Kakashi, Allan lost his kunai. Because of the fight, the kunai cracked and broke just as the fight ended. Seeing that Allan felt bad for the kunai, Kakashi said, "Allan, I will give you a new kunai." Kakashi took his ninja kit and said, "There are 3 kunai, 6 shuriken, 2 smoke bombs, and an explosive tag here." Kakashi gave him the kit and Allan looked gratefully at him, "Thanks, I just needed 1 kunai." Kakashi shook his head, "You saved me and my teammates, and now you helped me train, so that's the least I could do, please accept it." "Okay, thank you," Allan smiled and took the kit from Kakashi. Although this ninja kit had no use for someone as strong as Allan, maybe it can be useful. After having breakfast, Kakashi asked, "By the way Allan, can you give me your honest thoughts about my kenjutsu?" Allan replied after some thought, "You are quite proficient, to be honest, if you take some time to refine your kenjutsu, you will definitively surpass your father." Kakashi nodded and said, "I will try my best." At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared beside Kakashi in a yellow flash. Allan wasn't concerned about Minato appearing here out of nowhere. Kakashi saw Minato appearing beside him and said in surprise, "Minato-sensei, how did you get here?" Minato replied, "Didn't I give you the Flying Thunder God kunai, I just teleported here." "Oh, right," Kakashi remembered the kunai. "Then Minato-sensei, is the Konobe Bridge's mission complete?" Kakashi asked in concern. "Well, it's done, I just came back." Minato looked a little tired. "You worked hard, sensei." After chatting for a while with Kakashi, Minato looked at Allan and said, "Allan-san, Hokage-sama wants to meet you." "Let's go then," Allan agreed readily, he also really wanted to meet Hiruzen Sarutobi, after all, in Naruto's world, he is called the Professor, who knew every jutsu in Konoha except for the clan and blood limit ones. Allan was excited to meet a cage-level powerhouse. Half an hour later, Allan followed Minato to the Hokage Tower, which is practically a landmark in Konoha. Inside the Hokage office, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat in front of his desk with Shimura Danzo standing next to him, they looked in their 40s or 50s. Minato said, "Hokage-sama, this is Allan." Hiruzen nodded and looked at Allan and said, "Hello, I'm Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage of Konoha, I've heard from Minato that you saved Kakashi and the others, thank you for saving them." "You're welcome," Allan replied. Sarutobi then asked, "So, is there anything you want?" Allan thought for a bit and said, "If possible, I would like to stay in Konoha." Chapter 342. Hiruzen was surprised by Allan's request as he said, "You mean you want to settle down here?" Allan nodded, "That's right, I hope it isn't too much, I hope you can agree to my request, Sandame Hagake." Hiruzen stared directly at Allan and asked, "Why do you want to stay in our village? Is there a special reason?" Allan smiled lightly, "Actually, there is no special reason, just that Konoha seemed pleasant to live in." Hearing this, Hiruzen glanced at Danzo, who understood what his former teammate and rival wanted. "Although you saved the ninjas from our village, we don't know anything about you, we don't even know if your name is real or not. It's not an easy thing to let you stay in Konoha and settle down. We need to verify your identity before we can decide whether to agree to your request or not." Allan's expression turned cold, it was obvious that Hiruzen and Danzo were suspicious of him. He just sneered and said, "I know that you two are suspicious of me, you might even think that I'm a spy sent by an enemy and want to collect information here, right?" Danzo's expression cracked slightly as he didn't expect Allan to just say that bluntly. Hiruzen thought was calm as he laughed and said, "Allan, we don't suspect that you're a spy, but you made yourself suspicious by saying that." Allan smiled, "Although you two sirs didn't directly say that I'm a spy, you are thinking about it and I don't blame you for it, after all, my identity is indeed suspicious." "It's good that you know," Danzo said. "So, how do you want me to verify my identity?" Allan asked Danzo with a cold face. Danzo replied, "Just tell me where you were born, who were your parents, and if you have family members, your previous job, etc." We will send someone to confirm your words, and if there is really no problem with your identity, we can let you stay in Konoha." Hearing this, Allan snorted coldly and glanced at Hiruzen. It's obvious that Hiruzen shared the same thoughts. Those two old monsters suspected that he was a spy sent here for information, which made him quite unhappy. At this time, the system gave him a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Facing the suspicion of being a spy, explain to Danzo and Hiruzen your real identity as a world traveler. Reward: an A-rank fire ninjutsu gift pack. 2. It's inconvenient and dangerous to say the truth, keep your identity hidden. Reward: a B-rank ninjutsu gift pack. 3. Use force to suppress Danzo and Hiruzen and make them agree to your request. Reward: an A-rank wind ninjutsu gift pack. Allan eliminated the first and third options without hesitation. Although their rewards were better, Allan still rejected them. The reason was simple: his identity as a world traveler would cause a lot of trouble and he didn't want to fight against Hiruzen and Danzo. If he were to fight both of them, then that means that the entire village would fight against Allan, and the latter didn't want that. Thinking about this, Allan shrugged and said, "Hokage-sama, my identity doesn't need any verification, and I'm not that suspicious. There is no need to waste manpower and time to verify this." Hearing this, Danzo said, "Is it that inconvenient to say, or are you just a spy from another village trying to infiltrate our village?" With the last sentence, Danzo almost revealed a trace of killing intent. He was obviously very suspicious of Allan. If he was a spy, Danzo would quickly get rid of him, like many before him, or so Danzo thought. Danzo won't show mercy for anyone who can be a danger to Konoha. Allan sneered at Danzo and said, "It doesn't matter really, you can send people to verify my identity or if anyone knows me, but I will assure you that no matter who you send or how many, there won't be any information about me in this world." Danzo said, "No one can completely hide their information, and our intelligence network is very strong, so we can find out whatever we want sooner or later. Hopefully, by then, you want to turn out to be a spy, Allan-san." Hearing this, Allan laughed, and loudly at that. Hiruzen and Danzo, even Minato on the other side of the door, were puzzled by Allan's sudden laughter. Danzo angrily said, "Allan-san, this is the Hokage's office, restrain yourself, what are you laughing at?" Chapter 343. Allan restrained his laugh as he looked directly at Danzo and said, "I laugh because you are too confident, because you can't find information about me." Hearing this, Danzo said, "You are underestimating the intelligence network of Konoha." Allan shook his head and said, "I'm not underestimating anything, because in this world, there is nothing on me, no family, job, or identity, so, you won't find anything about me. No one can be without a life, there should be something that we can find," Danzo said as he didn't believe Allan. Hiruzen commented, "If it is a war orphan, that would make sense, from he was born, he didn't have parents, in short, he lived alone for most of his life, without a single place to stay in, like a wanderer, right?" Allan shrugged and said, "I can only tell you that I came from a faraway place, a continent that has nothing with your own, that's all I can say." Trying to be mysterious, Danzo muttered. Hiruzen said, "Are you implying that you are not from this continent but from another one?" "Possibly," Allan shrugged. Danzo said, "Hiruzen, that's absurd." The latter replied, "Danzo, you should know that this world is vast, and we only see the surface of it, there are other people in other places." Danzo said, "Of course, I know that, but this guy is still too suspicious." At this moment, Minato intervened. "Hokage-sama, Danzo-sama, Allan helped me and accompanied me for a while, I think he is reliable and trustworthy, I hope you can allow him to stay and I will be responsible if anything happens." Danzo replied, "Minato, you're too naive." Hiruzen pondered for a while before raising his hand and said, "Okay, since Minato trusts you, you can stay in Konoha." "Thank you." Danzo warned, "Don't think that you can live in Konoha without care, if I find that you disobey the law or do anything suspicious, we will throw you out, or even kill you." "I understand, I won't do anything bad, don't worry," Allan replied. Although Allan wasn't afraid, he still wanted to stay in Konoha, so he didn't pay people like Danzo any mind. "Minato, about where Allan should live, it's up to you to arrange his lodging for now," Hiruzen said. "Yes, Hokage-sama," Minato replied. After walking out of the Hokage tower, Allan looked toward Minato and said, "Minato, thank you, without you, I don't think I would have convinced them that I don't mean any harm by staying here, and they wouldn't have allowed me to live in Konoha." Minato smiled and said, "You're welcome, this is what I should do, besides, it's our village's honor to have a talent like you here." Allan nodded before sighing inwardly at Minato's broad mind and vision. Danzo was nothing compared to him. "By the way, Minato, Hokage-sama asked you to arrange a residence for me, do you have a place in mind?" Allan asked curiously. Although he doesn't have any high requirements for a place to live, he thought that it's better to be in a place with a good environment. Minato replied, "You're staying at Kakashi's place right now, but if you want, you can stay with me for some time." "Your house?" Allan was surprised. Minato said, "You don't want to?" Allan replied, "Isn't it inconvenient to live in your house? Won't your wife complain about me?" Hearing this, Minato laughed hard. "Ha ha ha ha, I'm not married yet, where did this lady come from?" "I see, that means you live alone now." Allan understood that Minato didn't marry Kushina yet. At this time, Kakashi appeared beside them. Hearing that Allan was looking for a place to stay, Kakashi said, "Allan-san, you should stay with me, after all, you can be my sparring partner and help me get stronger." Allan shrugged and said, "Well, since you asked, I will stay in your place, Minato. Sorry, I will visit you when I have time and stay over if you want." "You're welcome anytime," Minato smiled. Just like this, Allan got his wish to stay in Konoha and he temporarily lived in Kakashi's house. In addition to sparring every day with Kakashi, Allan spends some of his time enjoying the new experience in Konoha. Chapter 344. Time flew by and before he knew it, Allan has been in Konoha for a month. Allan has been staying at Kakashi's house for the past month as he trained with Kakashi almost every day. In the woods a few kilometers away from Kakashi's house, Allan and Kakashi were sparring like usual. Kakashi attacked fiercely with his sword and Allan defended with a kunai. After nearly a month of training with Allan, Kakashi progressed steadily in his swordsmanship. He was highly praised by Allan. "Allan, thank you for accompanying me in training for the last month," Kakashi said gratefully. "I'm surprised by how fast you're progressing, Kakashi," Allan replied. "By the way, Allan-san, this is a chakra paper to test your nature's affinity as you've asked." Taking the chakra paper from Kakashi, Allan smiled lightly, "Thanks, I'm going to test my chakra now." Soon, his chakra passed through the paper and Allan was surprised that he had all 5 chakra natures. He had wind, lightning, water, earth, and fire, which means that he can use all non-blood limit ninjutsu. Only Hiruzen Sarutobi can use all 5 chakra natures in Konoha right now, most jonin had 2 and rarely 3. Seeing he has an affinity for the 5 basic chakra natures, Allan wanted to try his ninjutsu. At present, he can perform the Academy 3, which are the transformation, the substitution, and the clone. He also knows mud clone, raise nan, fire release, fireball, lightning release, false darkness. Allan obtained the techniques from the ninjutsu gift boxes. The first he needed to test was the raise nan, which didn't need a chakra nature, and was one of the few techniques that didn't need hand seals while also being one of the strongest techniques. If he add a chakra nature to it, it would be at the peak of rank S ninjutsu. Forming the raise nan in his hand, Allan faced a boulder as he bellowed, "Raise nan!" With one blow, a huge rock burst open. Allan nodded with satisfaction. Raise nan was indeed a powerful ninjutsu. Although he used it before in Hunter x Hunter World, he was still amazed at the power it packed. If he wanted it to be stronger, he needed to add a chakra nature to it, but Allan didn't plan on doing so anytime soon, since it was too time-consuming. The current version was sufficient. Besides, Allan had other ninjutsu other than the raise nan, so after the test, he proceeded to make a few hand seals before he spews a huge fireball from his mouth. The huge fireball hit a tree, burning it down quickly. However, there is a saying in Naruto's world that says, a fireball isn't enough to kill anyone, especially one that can't hit. That wasn't wrong. Even though the fireball was strong, one of the strongest C-rank ninjutsu, it was fast enough to actually hit even a genin. Fortunately, Allan wasn't expecting much from the fireball technique, so he wasn't disappointed much. Finally, Allan was testing the lightning release, false darkness, which should be quite powerful. Since he was testing a lightning release jutsu, the best judge for that would be Kakashi, so Allan directly called him. Soon, Kakashi arrived. "Kakashi, I've learned a new lightning style jutsu, can help me test its power." "Lightning? Sure, let's try it against my Chidori," Kakashi readily agreed. In the next second, Allan's hand formed the seals required before shouting, "Lightning release, false darkness." Immediately, a lightning bolt rushed toward Kakashi at an extreme speed, who was prepared with his Chidori. Chapter 345. Seeing the lightning attack rushing toward him, Kakashi didn't slack as he blocked it using his Chidori. Kakashi's face was serious as cold sweat dripped from his forehead. The false darkness jutsu Allan released was so strong that his Chidori almost couldn't stop, so he supercharged Chidori with chakra hoping to overpower the lightning jutsu. Zzz. Although he was finally successful in blocking it, it consumed a huge chunk of Kakashi's chakra. Seeing Kakashi struggle to stop his attack, Allan smiled satisfied at its power. False darkness was around B rank, but Allan managed to make it reach A rank ninjutsu. What kind of lightning ninjutsu was that? It's amazing, Kakashi asked curiously. He didn't expect to wear himself out like that just to block a lightning jutsu. It's a lightning release ninjutsu, it's called false darkness. Kakashi hesitated for a bit before he asked, Allan, can you teach it to me? Facing Allan's request, the system gave him a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Agree to Kakashi's request and teach him lightning release, false darkness, reward, water clone jutsu. 2. Refuse Kakashi's request, reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Allan picked the first option almost instantly. Okay, I will teach it to you, Allan laughed. Thanks, Kakashi was excited as he didn't expect Allan to agree. Allan actually didn't want to spend time teaching Kid Kakashi, but the reward from the system was good. Kakashi said, I will teach you Chidori then, it will be a ninjutsu exchange between us. Teach me Chidori. Allan was a little surprised as he didn't expect that Kakashi would offer the Chidori. Allan said, well, since that's the case, let's start. I will teach you lightning release, false darkness, and you will teach me Chidori. Yes, Kakashi had no problem with this. 2 days later, Kakashi mastered false darkness and can use it easily. Allan wasn't surprised by this, since Kakashi was really a genius. He created an A-rank ninjutsu when he was 10, he actually could perform the false darkness jutsu in just half a day, while Allan took 2 days to learn Chidori. After Kakashi learned it, Allan got his water clone reward from the system. By the way, how is Obito right now? After finishing their training, Allan asked Kakashi. It's been more than a month since the Kanabi Bridge mission, and Obito was rescued by Tsunade. Kakashi replied, Obito is recuperating at home. Tsunade-sama said that although his body was repaired, he would need at least half a year to fully recover. Allan nodded by the thought that with Obito's impatience, he would not stay at home and would definitively go out. At this time, Rin comes over running. Seeing this, Kakashi asked quickly, what happened, Rin? Rin hurriedly explained, Obito's not home, I went to visit him, but I couldn't find him. Did you ask around? Kakashi asked. Rin shook her head and said, I searched around and couldn't find him. I also asked a few people and they said they didn't see him. Kakashi frowned and started getting anxious. Kakashi, what should we do? Rin asked. Kakashi thought for a while and said, you go inform Minato-sensei, and I will go look around to see if I find anything. Okay, I'm going. Kakashi turned to Allan and asked, Allan, can you help us find Obito? At this time, the system gave him another choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Help Kakashi and go find Obito with him. Find Obito within 24 hours. Reward, A-rank Genjutsu, Kokwang Gyu Satsu, Illusion Technique, Infinite Darkness. 2. Don't help out, making excuses about it being a private matter that doesn't concern you and having no time. Reward, Small Ninjutsu Gift Pack. After seeing his choice, Allan picked the first option and nodded, I will help, let's go together. Thank you, Kakashi said gratefully. Afterward, Allan and Kakashi quickly moved toward Obito's house in the Uchiha clan compound. Chapter 346. The Nine Tails incident has yet to happen, so the Uchiha clan compound was still in the center of Konoha. After arriving there, Allan and Kakashi directly went toward Obito's house. Kakashi pointed and said, this is Obito's house, he usually lives with his grandma, I've come here a few times before. Walking into the house, Obito's grandma saw Kakashi and said, Kakashi, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Kakashi replied, Grandma, do you know where Obito is? She rubbed her chin and said, I don't know, I didn't see him when I woke up in the morning, I don't know where he went, can you look for him? That kid is still recovering and is still running around. Kakashi assured her, "Don't worry, Grandma, I will find Obito." Kakashi then turned around and said to Allan, "Let's go to the forest nearby and look there." Allan nodded. After entering the wood, the two of them found several shuriken and kunai on the ground and on the trees around. "There are traces of battle here," Allan said. Kakashi followed, "That's right, the shuriken and kunai should belong to Obito. Someone was here for him." Kakashi was now sure that Obito is in danger and became anxious for his friend. Allan patted Kakashi's shoulder and said, "Calm down, Obito is probably still alive, we should split up and look for him, also, be careful of enemies there, don't be careless." "I will be careful," Kakashi nodded. The two of them split apart and each went to one side searching for Obito. A few moments later, Allan found something. In the depth of the forest, Obito's situation was bad, he was currently fighting a white man. Allan recognized Zetsu at a glance, who seemed to want to take Obito forcibly to Madara since the original plan didn't work. As for Obito, he was desperately resisting his kidnapper. It's a pity that his body was still far from completely recovering and can only fight slightly with his left side. At this time, Zetsu held Obito's body and tried to devour him. Zetsu was also known as the Will of Kagaya Otsutsuki. He had two forms, white and black. At this time, it was white Zetsu who was attacking Obito. The white half is a clone that can copy the chakra signature easily and can be used as a reconnaissance mainly, but it still can fight. In another future, had Allan didn't intervene, Obito would have been taken by Zetsu, but after he interfered, Allan thought that Zetsu wouldn't target Obito since he was in Konoha. After finding Obito, a new choice appeared in front of Allan. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Save Obito, reward, ninjutsu treasure chest. 2. Sit back and watch as Obito is taken away, reward, ninjutsu small gift pack. Allan decided to save Obito, and he had two reasons. The first is the reward, and the second is that he hates Zetsu's guts. Furthermore, Allan didn't want to see Madara resurrected, so he wouldn't let Obito be taken away. "Okay, let's try the genjutsu I just got." Allan made hand seals and activated infinite darkness. This is a high-level genjutsu that can create absolute darkness that prevented any type of light inside. At this time, Zetsu almost completely possessed Obito. Obito temporarily lost consciousness because of the possession. Zetsu, who was about to leave, suddenly found his surroundings turning black. Soon, he couldn't even see himself anymore. Zetsu, who was rendered blind, felt a sense of fear suddenly creep into his being. At this time, Allan quickly approached Zetsu, who couldn't even notice him due to his panic and blindness. When he finally wanted to take action, he heard the sound of chirping birds. The disadvantage of Chidori was the need for high visual perception due to the tunnel vision created by the high speed of the user. Allan used infinite darkness to stop Zetsu in place for a while and get an advantage by using Chidori's speed to plunge his hand into his enemy. This way, Zetsu won't be able to react and move to the side to avoid the Chidori. The Chidori stuck Zetsu, who was paralyzed by the electricity running through him while he screamed in the darkness. Chapter 347. In the darkness, Zetsu was hit by a Chidori and was screaming from the pain. His body fell off Obito's like a liquid on the ground. Allan released the infinite darkness genjutsu, returning the light to their surrounding. He saw Obito lying on the ground, but Zetsu was already gone. Allan knew that Zetsu wasn't that easily killed and he most likely escaped and couldn't help saying, "You really run fast." At this time, Allan received his reward. Ding! You successfully rescued Obito from Zetsu, reward, ninjutsu treasure chest. Open the treasure chest, Allan said. Ding! You've opened a ninjutsu treasure chest and received earth release, earth-style wall. Allan obtained a defensive earth ninjutsu which was quite good. At this time, Kakashi rushed over and saw Obito on the ground. Allan reassured, "Obito is fine, he just fainted, I will tell you what happened when we go back." "Okay," Kakashi nodded as he carried Obito on his back toward the hospital. After settling Obito in the hospital, Allan informed Kakashi of what happened. "That's the gist of it, that guy named Zetsu wanted to kidnap Obito, but I injured him and he ran away." Hearing this, Kakashi asked, "Why does he want Obito?" Allan shook his head, although he knew why he wasn't going to tell Kakashi that Zetsu was ordered by Madara Uchiha. Although he wanted to tell them that Madara was alive, he didn't have a reason to actually tell them. Furthermore, if he were to just announce that, they would suspect him further and he won't be able to stay in Konoha anymore. That's why Allan didn't intend to tell them about Madara. Soon, Rin and Minato came to visit Obito in the hospital. They breathed a sigh of relief when they learned that Obito was fine. Kakashi informed them that a guy named Zetsu wanted to kidnap Obito, but Allan rescued him, which made them very grateful. Minato brought Allan to the side as he said, "I'm really sorry that I let you save my student again, it appears that I'm an incompetent teacher." Allan smiled slightly, "Don't say that, you have your missions to do and you won't find the time to always protect them." Minato said, "Do you have time this evening? I will treat you to dinner as thanks for saving Obito again." Ding! Make a choice. 1. Accept Minato's invitation, reward, body flicker technique. 2. Reject Minato's invitation, reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Allan accepted Minato's invitation, which directly gave him knowledge of the body flicker technique as a reward. Allan then asked, "So, what are you treating me to?" Minato scratched the back of his head and said, "Although I really want to invite you to eat at my house, my cooking skills are not very good, so I'll invite you to eat barbecue, what do you think?" Barbecue? Yes, that's good, Allan readily agreed. In the evening, Allan along with Kakashi arrived at the busiest street in Konoha, which was the commercial street in the center of Konoha. Allan and Kakashi arrived at a barbecue shop, and the latter said, "Minato-sensei should be already inside, let's go in." Allan nodded and walked inside. As they went in, Allan found that Minato invite quite a few people, other than Kakashi and Rin. There is also Tsunade, who had a young body sitting next to her. There was also a red-haired woman on his left, which is obviously Kushina. Minato noticed Allan and immediately said, "Allan, let me introduce you, this is Kushina." "Hello, I heard a lot about you from Minato, you're really strong." Kushina took the initiative to greet Allan, who nodded back at Kushina and greeted her back. Then Minato pointed at the boy and said, "This is Tsunade-sama's younger brother, Noeki." Allan's eyes moved from Kushina to Noeki. Chapter 348. Noeki and Tsunade both belonged to the Senju family, and Noeki looked a lot like Naruto with a similar personality. Even their goals were the same, as both wanted to be Hokage. Naruto wasn't born yet, and originally, Noeki would die during this ninja war by an explosive tag, in a mission. Since Noeki was still here, then he still didn't go on that mission, but if Allan let it be, then he would die in that same mission. Thinking about this, and although Allan wanted to tell him to be careful, he considered that he was meeting him for the first time and they didn't know each other, so he just couldn't show concern, so, in the end, Allan gave up on saying anything to Noeki. Tsunade, who was sitting next to Noeki, saw Allan's gaze linger on Noeki and said, "Why are you staring at my brother all this time?" "It's nothing," Allan shook his head. At this time, Minato stood up with a cup in his hand and said, "Allan, sorry that I don't drink, but let me give you a toast with tea for saving Obito today." Being able to receive a toast from Konoha's yellow flash wasn't something easy. Allan raised his glass filled with wine and said, "Cheers." This was the first time Allan tasted Konoha's sake. It didn't have a high concentration of alcohol and was a little sweet, but his throat felt hot after drinking it. "Oh? You seem to be a good drinker." Seeing Allan drink the entire cup in one go, Tsunade commented with admiration. "I'm decent," Allan smiled. "A mere glass of sake is nothing to him." Seeing his confidence, Tsunade said, "If that's the case, how about accompanying me for a drink?" "Drinking with you?" Allan was a little surprised. "What, you're afraid?" Tsunade asked back. Allan wanted to refuse initially, but a sudden system interruption stopped him. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Drink with Tsunade, and outdrink her, reward, medical ninjutsu, mystical palm jutsu. 2. Reject Tsunade, reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Allan accepted Tsunade's request without hesitation after seeing the option he got. "Okay, I will accompany you for a drink." "Good." Seeing Allan agreeing, Tsunade nodded in satisfaction. Allan then said, "Tsunade, are we the only two drinkings?" Tsunade glanced at everyone and then asked Minato, "Minato, do you want to drink?" Minato hurriedly shook his head, "Tsunade-sama, you know I can't drink, I have a mission tomorrow." Tsunade nodded before she looked at Kakashi and Rin, "Both of you are still too young to drink." Kakashi and Rin nodded quickly, as they had no interest, to begin with. "Can I drink, Ne-san?" Noeki sitting next to Tsunade asked. "As if you brat," Tsunade rolled her eyes at Noeki. In the end, Tsunade's gaze landed on Kushina, and said, "Kushina, do you want to accompany us for a drink? Kushina hesitated for a moment before she nodded, since Tsunade-sama asked, I will drink a little. Tsunade nodded with satisfaction and looked at Allan and said, okay, let us three starts. Allan smiled lightly and said, how are we doing this? Bar dice, or boxing? Tsunade's eyes lit up as she said, you know that as well? Then let's start with punches first. Sounds good, Allan replied. Kushina was a little embarrassed as she asked, I don't know anything about boxing. It's okay, I will teach you, it's very simple, Tsunade said in a big sister voice. Okay then, Kushina agreed. So next, Allan, Tsunade, and Kushina started the drinking game. The three of them sat together and whoever loses had to drink a cup. Because Kushina was new to this, she kept losing and had to drink 10 cups in just 2 minutes and started feeling funny. Even though she started feeling funny, Kushina had a strong personality and didn't want to appear weak in front of anyone. Minato, Kakashi, and the others were watching the competition and were dumbfounded by Kushina's alcohol tolerance. Minato knew that Kushina was pushing herself and asked, Kushina, do you want me to drink instead of you? Minato, didn't you say that you can't drink? Kushina asked back. It's okay, Minato replied. Okay then, you drink, Kushina agreed. Minato did drink 2 cups, but after that, he was completely drunk. Kushina was dumbfounded at this development, and Allan was speechless, he didn't expect Minato's tolerance to be so weak. When Kakashi saw this, he said, I will take Minato-sensei back first. Allan nodded and said, go ahead. Kakashi, I will help too, Rin said. As they left, Allan asked Tsunade, do you want to continue? Yes, we're not drunk yet, Tsunade replied. She wasn't just a gambler, but she was also addicted to alcohol. Tsunade then said to Noeki, you go back home first. Noeki wanted to stay, but he couldn't argue with Tsunade, so he just went back home. So, only Kushina, Tsunade, and Allan were left there as they continued their competition. Kushina was losing badly, so Allan lost a few times on purpose to help her a bit, but Kushina noticed this and felt bad. Allan wasn't afraid of drinking because he had his gourmet stomach, which can turn any food or drink he consumes into energy. After drinking all night, Tsunade was drunk, while Allan looked fine. As for Kushina, she was the first to get drunk and drop out of the game. He made a clone to send Tsunade home while he dropped Kushina at her house before heading toward Kakashi's place. Chapter 349. In a dark underground cave, a thin old man sat on a stone chair. Although he was disheveled and skinny, his aura was still strong. This used to be one of the strongest people in the ninja world. This is the man who stood side by side with the god of shinobi Hashirama Senju. This was Madara Uchiha. This place seemed like a place between the underworld and the world of the living. It was similar to Limbo. Madara used as an agate to deceive Hashirama and cheat death. It was due to that he discovered this place, a place for him to plan for the infinite Tsukuyomi project. Zetsu isn't back yet. Madara whispered. Now, he was almost 100 years old, his body was very weak and withering. Suddenly, Zetsu emerged from the ground. Seeing Zetsu, Madara said, Zetsu, what's the matter? Why are you back so late? Where is Uchiha Obito? Don't tell me you couldn't sneak into Konoha and bring him here. Facing Madara's questioning, Zetsu's face looked contorted as he gritted his teeth. Madara-sama, I managed to sneak into Konoha and take control of Obito's body, and was already coming here, but suddenly, someone attacked me and took him away. It's the same guy who rescued Obito on the Konobi bridge. He first used a genjutsu, infinite darkness, to deprive me of my vision, and covered his hand in lightning and shoved it into my body. I only managed to escape and save my life, otherwise, that guy would have killed me. Hearing this, Madara looked at Zetsu suspiciously. You said he deprived you of vision using infinite darkness? Isn't that Tobirama's jutsu? How did that guy manage to learn it? Is he from the Senju clan? Zetsu shook his head, he didn't know where that guy come from. T/N, previously, it was White Zetsu talking. At this time, Black Zetsu said, that's right, that guy used the infinite darkness that Tobirama invented, and he used the Chidori developed by a kid named Kakashi. He seems to be quite versatile and hard to deal with. Madara asked in a deep voice, what's his name? He is called Allan, Zetsu replied, he lives with the kid named Kakashi in Konoha. Madara said, investigate that guy and find out every detail about him, I want to know about this guy that hindered my plan over and over again. Got it, both Zetsus said at the same time. At this time, Zetsu once again went to Konoha to investigate Allan. At this time, Tsunade was in front of Kakashi's house as she called for Allan. Allan opened the door and said, "Tsunade-sama, why are you here?" Allan asked curiously. "Let's go to a bar and drink," Tsunade said straight to the point. "What drinking again?" Allan was speechless. "What? You have anything else to do?" Tsunade asked. "No," Allan shook his head. "So, you're free?" Tsunade asked. "Very free," Allan nodded. "Isn't it fine then?" "I don't have anything to do either, so accompany me to the bar," Tsunade said. "Okay," Allan could only reluctantly agree. For some time now, after that barbecue night and the boxing they did, Tsunade would come to Allan to accompany her to a drink. For an alcoholic gambler like Tsunade, it's hard to find a drinking buddy like Allan, who won't lose in a drinking competition. For Allan, drinking alcohol was like drinking water, no matter how much he drank, he won't get drunk. So, every time they drink together, it was always Tsunade who gets drunk. Tsunade was unwilling to accept her loss, after all, she was drinking for a long time and was good at it. But, she didn't seem to be able to outdrink Allan. Every time, she would be dead drunk, while not only was Allan not drunk, he can even send her drunk self back home safely. After some time, everyone in Konoha knew that Tsunade was drinking with a man named Allan recently. As soon as he became famous, all sorts of rumors started spreading. When Allan was walking down the street, he was receiving stares from many people, but Allan didn't care about their eyes. The gossip was naturally heard by Tsunade, and although she didn't care about what people said, she was still embarrassed that people's minds went to dirty places when they saw Allan taking Tsunade home every time they drink together. However, she knew that while Allan sends her home, he never took advantage of her and was very disciplined. Tsunade knew this and appreciated Allan's behavior. Although they were 10 years apart with her being older, it didn't affect the favorable impression she had of Allan. When Tsunade came again today for a drink, Allan wanted to refuse since there are so many rumors already and he didn't want them to continue. But Tsunade insisted and he had to agree again. After the two finished their drink, Tsunade said, "Thank you for taking me home when I was drunk before, I have a mission tomorrow and I have to leave the village, and won't be back for a while, so, we'll drink when I get back, okay?" Of course, Allan agreed. Then it's settled. Tsunade rarely showed a happy smile, but she smiled right now. Under a tree, a young man with long blue hair and wearing a ninja vest saw Tsunade's smile and his expression became complicated. He had envy and jealousy in his eyes. He clenched his fists and slammed them against a tree as he wondered, "Tsunade, why are you smiling happily at that guy? Could it be you like him?" After parting, Allan walked around since it was still early and he had nothing to do. Because he was close to Tsunade recently, many people know him and most of them think that he had a special relationship with her. Allan didn't both explain those rumors. He and Tsunade were drinking buddies, nothing else. Just as he turned into an alley, a young man stood in front of Allan. Allan stopped and glanced at the man, he was the same young man from before. Allan found this guy familiar, but couldn't remember his name. "Who are you?" Allan asked. "Ryuudan," said the man. Oh, it turned out to be this guy. Allan suddenly remembered who Ryuudan was. Chapter 350. Ryuudan is a jonin. Originally, he is Tsunade's first love. He had a sense of justice and wanted to bring peace to the village and was inspired to be the Hokage. During a mission, he was seriously injured and Tsunade couldn't save him even with her superb medical skills, which led her to fear blood later on. Now, Ryuudan was still alive, and Allan could guess why Ryuudan looked for him. It was mostly because of Tsunade since he was close to the blonde recently, but Allan still pretended that he didn't know anything and asked, "You're looking for me? Is there something?" "Sure enough," Ryuudan replied seriously, "I know you have been close to Tsunade lately, and I hope you stop drinking with her." Hearing this, Allan smiled and looked at Ryuudan. "You should get your facts together, it was Tsunade looking for me to drink, and never the other way around." Dan's face became ugly as he knew that he was wrong but still held firm. "In short, I don't want you to get close to Tsunade again." "Oh? Why?" Allan's mouth rose in a slight smile while asking knowingly. "Because," Dan hesitated, he really didn't want people to know about his feelings for Tsunade. Seeing that he didn't speak, Allan said, if you're not saying anything, then I'm leaving. Because Tsunade and I are childhood friends, we are childhood sweethearts, is that good enough reason? Kato Dan stated. Allan nodded and said, understood, that means you like Tsunade, right? Dan said nothing because Allan was right, he had a secret crush on Tsunade, but he didn't confess his love to her. Allan shrugged and said, it's your business if you like Tsunade, but you have no right or qualification to stop me from coming in contact with her, understand? Allan didn't want to talk much with Dan, but seeing Dan's tone as he ordered him to leave Tsunade alone, he immediately wanted to oppose him. The more Dan wanted him to stay away from Tsunade, the more he will see her. In a word, he wanted to make Dan mad. Sure enough, Allan's word made Dan angry, he clenched his fists and said, I want to fight you for Tsunade. Fight me? Are you serious? Allan thought he heard wrong. Dan stated, that's right, I want to fight you, if you win, I won't stop you from talking and hanging out with Tsunade. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Accept Kato Dan's challenge and defeat him, reward, ninjutsu gift pack. 2. Reject Kato Dan's challenge, reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Okay, I will fight you. For the reward's sake, Allan accepted the challenge. Dan said, this is not a suitable place for a fight, let's go to the nearby woods, so we don't attract attention. Allan thought that no matter where he went, the result would be the same, but he still went to the wood. You think far ahead, even if you lose here, no one will know and you won't be embarrassed, Allan said. Hearing this, Dan snorted coldly, do you think you can beat me? As a Jonin from Konoha, I have confidence in my power. Allan replied, you will know when you try. As the battle started, Dan made a few hand seals before launching an attack on Allan. He attacked using a fireball, which was good. Allan formed hand seals and said, fire release, fireball jutsu. In an instant, a huge fireball collided with Dan's own fireball. The two fireballs exploded, creating a small crater on the ground. The high temperature made Allan and Dan take a step back. When Kato saw this, his hand formed seals again. Water release, water colliding wave jutsu. Water appeared in an instant from the ground and coiled around Dan before it rose like a tornado and headed toward Allan, trying to engulf him. This was a technique created by Tobirama Senju, and Dan was able to master this move to a great degree, which shows his power. Allan didn't move, and after forming a few hand seals, he slammed his hands on the ground. Earth release, earth-style wall jutsu. A huge earth wall emerged in front of Allan, blocking the water from hitting Allan. Chapter 351. It's amazing to be able to block my exploding water colliding wave with an earth wall. As Allan blocked Kato Dan's last attack, the latter started making hand seals again, and this time, he used lightning ninjutsu. Lightning attacks were the fastest attacks, and in terms of chakra nature, lightning beats earth. Kato Dan wanted to take Allan's earth wall using a lightning attack. Immediately after taking down Allan's earth wall, Dan once again launched another attack. When Allan saw this, he quickly used his own lightning attack. Lightning release, false darkness. In an instant, two dazzling beams of lightning eventually cancelled each other out. Kato Dan frowned as he looked serious right now. You actually can use lightning release as well, and it's quite strong as well, you're quite good. Allan looked at Dan's serious face and laughed softly, haha, what other ninjutsu do have, use them all, I will counter each of them. If Allan wanted, he could end the match instantly using his power of space. Although Kato Dan wasn't as famous as the Sannin, he wasn't that far away in skills at the current timeline. After all, his goal was to be Hokage, and one of the requirements of that title is strength. Kato Dan used fire release, water release, and lightning release successively, but Allan blocked each attack with one of his own. At this moment, Kato Dan wanted to try wind ninjutsu. Since wind counters lightning, the wind attribute can sharpen anything and can cut almost anything in the world. It can also blow anything away, and increase speed, which made it the most flexible chakra nature and one of the rarest. Wind release, great breakthrough. Dan quickly released an attack, and facing it, Allan raised another earth wall. Kato Dan expected this already and used another wind jutsu. Wind release, vacuum sphere. The earth wall was broken and Allan quickly evaded the wind attack. Kato Dan used this opportunity to move fast and engage Allan in a melee fight. After dozens of attacks, Kato Dan successfully landed a kick on Allan's body, but to his surprise, Allan turned into a pile of mud. Mud clone. Dan's expression changed slightly. He never imagined that he was fighting against Allan's clone and didn't know when the change happened. He recalled the time Allan raised the last earth wall. Was it at that time? It was the only explanation that Dan could come to, as there is no other way for Allan to replace himself with a clone. But he didn't know where the real Allan was right now. Dan looked around and suddenly found himself in a completely dark area. He could no longer see anything, even his own body. Is this the second Hokage's technique? The infinite darkness. As expected from Dan, he actually knew of this technique. He was really surprised right now. He didn't expect that Allan would know a technique like this at all. Although Dan was somewhat careless, he didn't underestimate Allan, but the latter went beyond his expectation. Chapter 352. Although the infinite darkness deprives the vision of the victim, the user can see anyone inside, and it was actually real darkness. Bang! In the dark, Dan was attacked by Allan's fists and kicks. Allan didn't use any ninjutsu as he didn't want to leave any injuries. Bang! 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 After a few punches, Dan's face was swollen as he became furious. Allan was literally slapping him in the face. In the darkness, Allan said with a playful tone, "If you continue this fight, your face will turn into a pig's head. I don't know how Tsunade will react if she saw that face." Hearing Tsunade's name, Dan got even angrier. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Dan didn't want to keep the beating going, so he used a wide-range fire technique that could attack all directions. Since he can't see anything, Dan decided to attack in every direction in hope of hitting Allan. Sure enough, Allan was forced to retreat facing Dan's attack. Since he had an advantage, Dan directly made another attack, and this time with wind jutsu. Wind release, great breakthrough. He was stupid enough to try and use the wind jutsu in hope of releasing the infinite darkness, but he can only be disappointed. Darkness isn't an existent object or matter, it's just the lack of light. Dan calmed down and tried using the standard genjutsu release. By releasing his chakra outward to disrupt the illusion, he underestimated the power of the infinite darkness. If this is the case, I can only use that trick to get out of the illusion. Dan gritted his teeth and stabbed his left palm with a kunai. Blood flowed out of his palm as his eyes regained vision and the darkness disappeared. Dan was overjoyed. The pain can cause the illusion to dispel, and it did just that with the infinite darkness. He was just giving it a try and didn't think that he would be successful at all. Amazing, you actually used self-inflicted pain to break through the infinite darkness technique. At the same time, a kunai touched Dan's neck. Allan sneered and said, "It seems like you've lost." "I don't think so," Dan said back. In the next second, Dan's body turned into a log. Substitution. Allan was surprised. At the same time, a figure rushed from behind and kicked at him. However, Allan's body turned into a water puddle. Water clone. Dan didn't expect Allan to know another clone. Allan's figure appeared from him with a kunai pressed against his neck. "This time, you've lost, right?" Allan sneered. Dan sighed and said, "I lost." Although Dan still has a trump card, Allan could have finished him twice right now, so he didn't want to fight anymore. Allan put the kunai away and said, "Since you admitted defeat, then you can't stop me from interacting with Tsunade in the future?" "No, it should be said that you can't stop Tsunade from contacting me." Dan nodded and said, "Although I will not stop you, I will tell you that I won't give up on Tsunade." Allan shrugged, "Whatever you want." Dan snorted coldly and turned away. He was frustrated by the loss and that Tsunade will continue seeing Allan. Judging from this battle, Dan understood that Allan was quite strong. As Dan left, Allan's reward arrived. Ding! You successfully defeated Dan. Reward, Ninjutsu Gift Pack. "Open it," Allan said. Ding! You opened a Ninjutsu Gift Pack. You obtained Water Release, Water Dragon Bullet Technique, Fire Release, Great Dragon Fire Technique, Wind Release, Great Breakthrough Technique. Allan was quite surprised as he didn't expect 3 ninjutsu at once and all 3 were from different attributes. It was a good deal to fight Dan. Chapter 353. Since it was the Shinobi World War, each village compete to add land to their territory. The 5 great villages were the leaders of the Shinobi world. And almost all of the villages were hostile to each other. In the northern forest in the Land of Fire, a team of ninjas from Konoha responsible for supplying to the front lines was suddenly in disarray as something exploded out of nowhere. The Chunin in charge detected the danger, but he was seriously injured nonetheless. At this time, dozens of enemies appeared, and the team, which was composed of 5 Chunin and 10 Genin, was defeated and all their items were lost. At the Hokage Tower, in the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi was currently sitting at his desk hearing the recent report. Hokage-sama, recently, one of our supply teams was ambushed near the border and all of them were killed and the items they had were taken. We still don't know which village did this. Immediately set up an investigation team, Hiruzen Sarutobi shouted as he slammed his hand on the table. Hokage-sama, we lack personals, almost all Jonin are on the front lines. Hiruzen thought about it and said, go to the roots and ask Danzo to come over. Danzo arrived not long after and said, Hiruzen, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Hiruzen said, yesterday, one of our supply teams was ambushed near the border and we suffered heavy losses. You already know this, right? Danzo nodded, well, I received the report. Hiruzen said, I don't know who did it, so we're setting up an investigation team. At the same time, we need a new supply team. How many people? Shimura Danzo asked. The initial plan is to have 22 people, 15 in the supply team and 7 in the investigation team. In addition, they must be accompanied by 2 Jonin leaders to ensure the supply's safety, Hiruzen explained. Good arrangement, Shimura Danzo nodded. Currently, all Jonin are on the front lines and we lack personals here, so I need to borrow some of you people. Danzo sighed helplessly, Hiruzen, most of my people are currently out on missions and I don't have many people left, I'm afraid that I can't help you. Hearing this, Hiruzen's face fell as he said, Danzo, it's not time to fight with me, the village is in a crisis now, do you really want to stand by and watch? Sarutobi was getting angry and Danzo quickly replied, Hiruzen, you misunderstood, as the leader of Root, I have always seen it as my responsibility to protect the village. I sent almost all my men out as the war started and I don't have many people at hand to send out. Hiruzen waved his hand as he didn't want to hear any more nonsense and asked directly, in a word, how many people do you have? Danzo pondered for a bit and said, well, I have 7 at most, and it will take 2 days to call them back. Hearing this, Hiruzen said, then the investigation team will be left to you. Danzo nodded and said, no problem, what about the supply team? You still need 15 people, where will you find them? Hiruzen said, we can only call some people from the front line, the items need to be prepared and that will take 2 to 3 days before the team can be dispatched. Danzo said, Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin, Minato's students, are still in the village and they can be part of the supply team. Hiruzen asked, Uchiha Obito was seriously injured before, how is he currently? I heard that after Tsunade's treatment, he almost recovered, Danzo replied. Well, I will arrange for the 2 of them to be part of the logistic team, Sarutobi said. Danzo said, besides those 2, there is another person you can use. Who? Hiruzen asked curiously. Shimura Danzo replied, it's the guy named Allan, he's been in the village for a while, and I sent someone to investigate him before, although we didn't find anything about him, his behavior was quite normal, and didn't do anything suspicious while staying here. I think that since he wants to stay in the village, he should do something about it, after all, our village doesn't support idlers. Hiruzen thought about it for a bit and said, okay, I will ask him when the time comes, if he doesn't agree, we can't force him to do it. Then I will go back first. Danzo left. Chapter 354. After Danzo left, Sarutobi took his crystal ball and inspected the village. Using the crystal ball, Hiruzen could find anyone anywhere in the village, but he needed to know the target's chakra signature. Sarutobi Hiruzen often used the crystal ball to check the security of the village, and because he didn't know Allan's chakra signature, he had to look slowly through the village. As soon as he found Allan, Sarutobi left his office and went toward Allan, who was currently holding a fishing rod in his hand and leisurely fishing in a river. Since arriving in Konoha, Allan practiced ninjutsu almost all the time, but to relax, he started fishing. All his acquaintances weren't inside the village. Tsunade, Minato, and Kakashi were all sent to the battlefield. So when he was bored, Allan would come here to relax. At this moment, Allan noticed something and turned his head to look behind him. He felt a dark aura that made him feel uncomfortable in the woods. At this time, Zetsu, with his body warped in leaves, appeared on the tree. His lower body wasn't even fully emerged from it. Zetsu is the best spy in the Akatsuki, as he can be anywhere he wants without anyone even detecting him. Zetsu sneaked into Konoha on the orders of Madara to look into Allan. In fact, he was already infiltrating Konoha for 3 days, hiding in the dark, but he still found nothing on Allan. "Let's go back," Black Zetsu said. "Yeah," White Zetsu agreed. However, at this moment, someone said, "Since you're here, don't go back so quickly." "Hey!" Black Zetsu was taken aback and said, "This is bad." Zetsu immediately wanted to escape underground, however, his movement halted as if he was restricted by something. "I can't move." Black Zetsu was scared. "This is..." Zetsu seemed to have understood what happened and became horrified. "This is space-time ninjutsu." The next second, lightning struck Zetsu's body as a hand penetrated his body which severely injured him. At the same time, Allan appeared in front of him. Just as he was fishing just now, Allan discovered that it wasn't an Anbu from Konoha monitoring him, so he decided to attack. Normally, some Anbu would keep an eye on him, which he really didn't care about. He instantly locked his target with his space lock. With his current ability, he can lock the space from a distance of 500 meters. As a result, Zetsu couldn't move at all for a few seconds, which was enough for Allan to attack. And since Zetsu was severely injured and his body paralyzed by the lightning attack, he wasn't able to move and couldn't escape. He could only stay there for Allan to attack him however he wanted. Chapter 355. Allan knew very well that Zetsu isn't here on his own accord, that's why he decided to interrogate him before doing anything else. Allan smiled slightly and said, "Don't be afraid, I don't eat, well, as long as they answer my questions that is, so answer me, and you get to go." Zetsu saw Allan smile and felt fear for the first time. Allan asked straight away, "Tell me, did that old ghost Uchiha Madara ask you to monitor me?" Hearing Allan saying Madara Uchiha, both sides of Zetsu were shocked. They were shocked that he knew Madara was alive, and furthermore that they were connected to him. This made them curious about Allan's identity. Zetsu said, "You actually know about Uchiha Madara, who are you?" Allan stepped on Zetsu's face and said, "Figure that out yourself, I'm the one asking the questions right now." This was the first time Zetsu was trampled under someone's feet, and it felt extremely humiliating. As a product of Kagaya's Atsutsuki's will, in a sense, Zetsu was Kagaya herself. Kagaya was someone who ate the chakra fruit and the first immortal in Naruto's world. She was equivalent to a god in the elemental nations. At this moment, Black Zetsu, who is Kagaya's will, was under Allan's foot and he couldn't do anything at all. Black Zetsu was furious, but he didn't have any ability to fight right now. At this moment, he replied, "Yes, Madara Uchiha asked us to monitor you." "Sure enough, it's that old ghost," Allan snorted coldly. Zetsu said, "Originally, Madara's target was Uchiha Obito, but you stopped him, so Madara asked us to monitor you and get all information we could get." "So, did you find anything?" Allan sneered. Zetsu replied, "No, we didn't find any information about you." Allan said coldly, "White Zetsu, Black Zetsu, listen to me, go back to Madara and tell him, don't mess with me, or I will personally go to his underground cave and kill him." Allan released his killing intent which made both Black and White Zetsu tremble in fear. At the same time, Black Zetsu was extremely shocked. He didn't expect Allan knew about Madara, and he knew about him as well. Zetsu looked at Allan and asked, "Who the hell are you, you even know about us?" Allan sneered, "I know all your secrets, including your origin." "Impossible," Zetsu replied. Seeing that Black Zetsu didn't believe him, Allan said, "Black Zetsu, you are Kagaya Atsutsuki's will. After Kagaya was sealed by Hago Romo and Hamura, you created a conflict between Hagoromo's children, which resulted in the Uchiha and Senju, and changed the Uchiha stone tablet. You incited Madara to fight Hashirama. You helped Madara get Hashirama's cells so he could get the Rinnegan, and when he read the tablet with his new eyes, he find that to save the Uchiha and help the world achieve peace, he needs to use the infinite Tsukuyomi. Moreover, you pretended that Madara Uchiha created you, and used that old fool to help you in the infinite Tsukuyomi plan, but in fact, you just wanted to use Madara to revive your mother. As for White Zetsu, you're extracted from the husk of the Juhobi that was sealed in the moon." "What? That's impossible." Hearing Allan's words, Black Zetsu was stunned, and the same for White Zetsu. "You, who the hell are you? How do you know so much?" Black Zetsu asked with a trembling voice. He couldn't believe that there is someone in the world who knew his origin and plans. Allan smiled coldly and said, in short, don't mess with me. After this, Allan ignored Zetsu and left. Why did he kill us? With his power, he would be able to do it. Zetsu couldn't understand this. Maybe he thinks that we are just too weak for him to kill. What should we do now? White Zetsu asked. Let's go back to Madara's place first, Black Zetsu said. Afterward, Zetsu left Konoha. Allan guessed that Zetsu won't dare to step inside Konoha for a long time now. After solving this problem, Allan went back to the shore and continued fishing. What happened just now was just a small matter that didn't affect him. In Allan's eyes, he really didn't put Zetsu in his eyes. Even if Madara came himself, Allan wasn't afraid of him. What's more, Madara was already an old man with one foot on the grave, so Allan wasn't worried that the latter would come for him. Soon after that, Allan left the river with his fishing rod in hand, and on his way, he was surprised by who he bumped into. Sandaime Hokage. On his way back, Allan met Hiruzen Sarutobi. Chapter 356. Hokage-sama, why are you here? Seeing Sarutobi in front of him, Allan asked curiously. Hiruzen laughed and said, I'm here for you, Allan. Allan was surprised, looking for me? What's the matter? Hiruzen directly went to the point and said, recently, our supply team was attacked by an enemy and we suffered some losses. Now, most ninjas were out on missions or on the battlefield and we are understaffed. Hearing this, Allan smiled slightly. In other words, Hokage-sama wants me to help, right? Correct, Hiruzen nodded and continued, since the previous team was ambushed, our supplies were stolen and the frontliners are facing some shortage. I'm currently preparing the supply and preparing a team to deliver them to the front line. There should be 15 members of the supply team. Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin should be part of the team and I want you to accompany the team as well. I just want you to help us deliver the supplies and lead the team. At this time, the system gave Allan a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Accept Hiruzen's request and lead a team with the supplies to the front line. Reward, Senju Tobirama Sensor ability. 2. Reject Hiruzen's request, making an excuse that you're not a ninja from Konoha. Reward, Ninjutsu gift pack. Even if it was just for the reward's sake, Allan agreed to lead the team. Okay, I will lead the team. Thank you, Sarutobi. Hiruzen was grateful as he didn't expect Allan to accept so easily. It was a dangerous mission after all. Allan was taking a risk by agreeing to this mission. Sarutobi didn't know that Allan accepted so quickly because of the reward he would get. Well, he also had to do something for Konoha if he wanted to be considered one of them. 2 days later, Hiruzen prepared a team to deliver the supplies. At the gate of Konoha, Hiruzen stood in front of Allan and said, the task of delivering these items will be in your hand, be careful on the road. Well, don't worry, I will send the supplies safely, Allan assured. Hiruzen nodded as he believed that Allan would get the job done. In addition to Allan, Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin were part of the team, along with 4 Anbu and the rest were genins. One of the Anbu was an Anbu captain, while the other 3 were his teammates. The captain was a jonin, and the others were either chunin ranks or special jonins. As the captain of the team, Allan had to ensure the safety of the team and the supplies. Most of the supplies were sealed in storage scrolls for easier transportation, but bulky items needed manpower to deliver. Only Allan, the Anbu captain, and his deputy didn't carry items. Their task was to lead the team forward and be alert to the danger around them and protect the others. After a few days, Allan and his party of 14 finally reached the border. At this time, the Anbu captain took out a map and said, going ahead, we will find we should encounter a forest, after that forest should be the camp. Okay, let's go then, Allan said. The Anbu captain said again, the last team was attacked in the forest, we should be careful. Don't worry, I'm here, Allan assured them. Immediately after, Allan, along with his group entered the forest. Chapter 357. The forest by the border was the main transportation route between Konoha and the camp, so it was common for ambushes to occur here. After Allan and the Anbu captain led the team into the forest, everyone seemed to be on guard. Suddenly, Allan made a stop gesture to the rest of the team. Everyone stopped instantly as the Anbu captain asked, Leader, did you find something? Allan looked ahead and said seriously, there are people in front of us, but I can't sense the exact number. Hearing this, the Anbu captain said, are they enemies? If that's the case, we should investigate. Allan shook his head and said, no, just let them come. Allan then squatted on the ground while touching the ground with 2 fingers. He sent chakra to the ground trying to sense the number and position of the enemies. Tobirama Senjo could use his sensor ability to sense the number, strength, and even the chakra nature of his target easily. And since Allan got that same ability, he was the best sensor in the world. Allan quickly figured out the number of those ahead and said, "There are 36 people ahead, about 200 meters away from us, looks like they are waiting for us to pass before they attack." Understood, the Anbyo captain nodded and was impressed by Allan's sensor's abilities. "Be careful, the enemy is 200 meters ahead," Allan turned around and reminded the rest of the team. "Got it," the entire team was ready. Uchiha Obito activated his Sharingan and waited. Since Obito survived, Kakashi wanted to return the Sharingan back to him, but Obito refused and the eye remained with Kakashi. Obito only had one eye right now. "Don't worry, Rin, I will protect you," Obito said. "Thank you for caring, Obito, but I will take care of myself." "Leader, what should we do?" the Anbyo captain asked Allan. As Allan was about to reply, the system gave him a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Lead all members of the team to fight the enemy, reward, B rank wind ninjutsu. 2. As the team leader, protect all members of the team and annihilate all enemies alone, reward, summoning, triple Rashomon. Triple Rashomon? Allan directly decided he wanted that. He turned around and said, "You lead the team and protect everyone, I will deal with the enemies." Hearing this, the Anbyo captain was surprised. "What? Are you going alone?" "Yes, I will do it alone," Allan said. "There are 36 enemies ahead, how can you deal with them? Even if you are very strong, it's impossible to do it all alone." Allan patted the Anbyo captain's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, you take care of the team and I will deal with them." "Okay, I got it." Seeing that Allan made up his mind, the Anbyo captain could only obey the order. "I'm going then," Allan said. "Okay, leader, be careful." Allan directly disappeared from his place. The Anbyo captain turned around and said, "The leader went to deal with the enemies, we will stay here on standby." Hearing this, Obito directly said, "I will go help the leader." The Anbyo captain directly stopped him, "No, you have to stay here, the leader will deal with the enemies. I have the Sharingan, and can definitively help Captain." "No, you will stay where you stand, that's an order, you're not allowed to act until given orders," the Anbyo captain said firmly. "Okay." Although Obito wanted to fight with those enemies, he had no choice but to obey orders. Rin persuaded him, "Obito, you should listen to the orders." "Well, I listened to them, Rin," Obito nodded. "I hope that Allan can deal with them," Rin looked ahead and said in a low voice. Allan rescued her team before, and she didn't want him to have an accident. "Don't worry, Rin, Allan is strong, he will be able to deal with the enemies ahead, believe in him." Obito was saved by Allan twice, so he respected Allan from the bottom of his heart. At this time, Allan was 50 meters away from the enemies. Allan disappeared and reappeared on a tree branch. He stopped moving since wires covered almost every direction. These wires were to trigger traps, a common explosive tag trap. Allan casually made a few hand seals before he spat a great fireball at the explosive tags in the tree. After setting the first explosion, the other explosive tags were detonated. The ninjas hiding in ambush thought that they succeeded and were drawn out, little did they know that their traps were already discovered beforehand and no one was caught in them. Allan relied on his sensor ability to read the position of all enemies before darkness covered a radius of 300 meters. Suddenly, the 36 enemies were deprived of their vision. Allan indeed used the infinite darkness illusion and caught all enemies in it. Chapter 358. All the ambush team was hit by the infinite darkness illusion and could no longer see anything. They didn't even know that they were in an illusion, and just thought that it was a weird ninjutsu. After casting the infinite darkness, Allan made a few hand seals and created mud clones. Clone 1, you go to the 3 o'clock direction, Clone 2, 12 o'clock, and I will deal with the rest, kill everyone as fast as possible, Allan gave his instruction to the clones. "Let's go." Allan wasn't affected by the darkness and along with his clones, they dealt with the enemies in under a minute. After that, he piled the bodies together and discovered that they were rock ninjas. In other words, it was those rock ninjas who attacked the last supply team. But they weren't lucky enough, since they encountered Allan this time. After successfully dealing with those 36 people, Allan got the triple Rashomon as a reward. leader. The Anbu captain along with the rest of the team greeted Allan, who smiled lightly. I've dealt with the enemy already. Everyone present was surprised as they saw the pile of bodies. You're amazing, leader. Obito looked at Allan with admiration. The Anbu captain also said in reverence, to be able to annihilate so many of them in such a short time is really amazing, such power makes people sigh in admiration. Every member of the team admired Allan's power right now. Do we take their body to the village? No, we have to transport the supply to the front line, let's just burn those bodies. Yes. Leave it to me, leader. Obito stood up. Okay, you can handle it. Of course. Obito nodded and moved to the corpse pile. He made a few hand seals and said, fire release, great fireball technique. After burning the bodies, Allan said, okay, let's move on. An hour later, Allan and the rest of the team arrived at the camp. There were many tents present there. The camp had thousands of ninjas, from fighters to medics. Allan and the others were greeted by Tsunade, one of the Sunin. Tsunade was the leader of the medical squad on the front line. Due to a shortage of manpower, she often had to fight on the battlefield. When Allan and the rest of the supply team arrived, Tsunade sighed in relief and said, great, you're finally here. According to Tsunade, the frontline fighter was in shortage of supplies for the last 2 days. With the supply they brought now, the crisis was averted. After finishing the delivery, Allan was prepared to lead the team back. Tsunade asked, are you going back? Yes, is there something? Allan wondered. You're not going to stay with us? Tsunade asked. You want me to stay and help? Allan was a little surprised. Tsunade said seriously, Allan, you're strong, if you can help in the front line, you can lighten our burden greatly. You're equivalent to Minato Namikaze, you can boost the morale of our ninjas. At present, Minato and Kakashi are fighting elsewhere, but Minato alone isn't enough, so we need your help. Hearing this, Allan frowned and said, the problem is, I'm not a ninja from Konoha, I'm the leader of the supply team, I just promised Hokage-sama to help in this. Now that the mission is complete, I can't just stay and help in the front line as well, right? It's true that you don't have to stay and help, but if I ask you as a friend, will you agree? Tsunade stared at Allan and her eyes seemed to be pleading with him. Ah! Allan was troubled. At this time, another choice popped up. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Accept Tsunade's request and stay and fight in the front line, reward, summoning, Red Snake. 2. Refuse to help and return to Konoha, reward, C-rank ninjutsu. Seeing the reward, Allan thought for a bit and chose the first option. He raised his head and looked at Tsunade, okay, I will stay and help. Hearing this, Tsunade smiled and said, thank you. You're welcome, Allan smiled lightly. Allan wouldn't have agreed to Tsunade's request easily if the reward wasn't there. After all, fighting in a war is troublesome. After agreeing to Tsunade's request, Allan got his reward directly. Hearing that Allan wanted to stay, Obito directly said, I also want to stay here, I won't go back. Rin also said, I'm the same. Tsunade looked at them and said, I didn't ask you to stay because both of you aren't strong enough to be here. Obito replied, Tsunade-sama, although we're not as strong as Kakashi, we will work hard, we can definitively help, please let us stay and help. Tsunade, since they want to stay so much, just let them be, Allan said. Well, since you said so, then fine, Tsunade agreed in the end. And like that, Obito and Rin joined the front line. After that, Allan said to the rest of the team, you guys go back, I will stay here, along with Obito and Rin to help. Then, we're going back first, leader, the Anbu captain said. You guys go back. Chapter 359. After agreeing to Tsunade's request, Alana and Obito were assigned their post on the battlefield. On a plain, hundreds of ninjas were fighting fiercely, they were Nanoha ninjas and the Rock ninjas. At present, Konoha wasn't winning, therefore, Allan and Obito were deployed to this battlefield as reinforcement. Is this a battlefield? There are so many people, this is the first time Obito was on the front line and he looked really excited. On the other hand, Allan wasn't even a bit excited about this so-called ninja war. Obito, be careful, don't get careless. Understood. Obito nodded to Allan's reminder. Let's quickly deal with this, Allan said. Okay, let go. Obito took a kunai and activated his Sharingan. Soon, Obito was fighting a rock ninja. Allan also started getting ready for the fight. Fire release, great fireball technique. Allan directly spat a fireball at a rock ninja who didn't have time to dodge, instantly burning him. Wind release, great breakthrough technique. A gust of wind blew against another rock ninja sending him flying. Lightning release, false darkness. Another rock ninja was attacked. Allan kept using ninjutsu on the rock ninjas before Konoha's forces gradually gained the upper hand, forcing the rock ninjas to retreat. Who is that person? He is amazing, he single-handedly helped us turn the tide of the battle. A Konoha Jonin looked at Allan with admiration. On the other hand, the rock ninjas were looking at Allan in anger. More than a dozen rock ninjas suddenly surrounded Allan and attacked him together. Earth release, underground split. A landslide formed on the still even ground and headed toward Allan. Allan stepped back quickly and dodged. Seeing this, the rock ninjas continued their attacks. Earth release, earth spear. Countless sharp spears emerged from the ground under Allan's feet. Allan couldn't dodge and he was instantly impaled. However, before the rock ninja could be happy, they saw Allan's body turn into mud. It turned out that all this time, they were fighting a clone. The rock ninjas were shocked and angry, they didn't expect that Allan could use a technique from their village. Allan ignored them, bit his finger, and started making hand seals, and finally, he placed his palm on the ground. Summoning Jutsu. With a puff of smoke, a large snake appeared under Allan. It was the red snake he got from the last reward. This snake was entirely red and was 20 meters long. Allan was on top of the snake's head and directly ordered, "Kill them." Yes. The snake obeyed and directly rushed toward the rock ninjas. The huge red snake was very strong, and those rock ninjas couldn't deal with it. The red snake swallowed the rock ninjas one after the other. Seeing this, the rock ninjas started launching ninjutsu and shuriken at the red snake, however, the red snake's skin was very hard and their attacks couldn't hurt it. Retreat! Retreat! The rock ninjas knew that they wouldn't be able to win against that snake and that they would all die if they don't retreat, so they decisively retreated. Allan didn't chase after them, soon the rock ninjas fled the battlefield. The ninjas of Konoha sat down on the ground in relief and took a rest. They were exhausted and if it weren't for Allan this time, it would have been impossible for them to defeat their enemy. Allan dispelled the summon and stood on the ground. "Allan-san, you're too strong. The big snake just now was too cool," Obito came to Allan's side and said in admiration. The red snake Allan summoned just now was really an eye-opener for Obito. Allan smiled, "You're doing pretty well yourself, your Sharingan is strong." Being praised by Allan made Obito shy, but he still said, "The next time they return, I will make them know who Uchiha Obito is." "Okay, let's go back now," Allan said. After that battle, Allan's name was known to almost all Konoha's ninjas. "Why did you come back so quickly?" Seeing that Allan was back, Tsunade wondered. Hearing this, Obito replied, "Tsunade-sama, it's done. You won." Tsunade was taken aback and looked at Allan. Allan nodded and said, "Those rock ninjas retreated." "Really?" Obito said excitedly, "Tsunade-sama, this is all thanks to Allan-san, he summoned a big red snake and dealt with all rock ninjas." "Oh." Tsunade was stunned and looked at Allan and said, "Your summon is a snake?" "Yeah," Allan nodded. Tsunade murmured, "Isn't that the same as Orochimaru?" "Orochimaru?" Of course, Allan knew Orochimaru, but he still acted as if he didn't know. Tsunade explained, "Orochimaru is also one of the Sunin, the same as me, he also summons snakes." "I see," Allan nodded, he knew that Manda and the red snake he summoned were from the Ryushi cave. Tsunade looked at Allan and said, "Anyway, thank you for your help." "It was easy," Allan said. "By the way, Tsunade-sama, are Kakashi and Minato-sensei back, yet?" Obito asked. "Not yet," Tsunade shook her head and said, "Minato and Kakashi are in charge of the first and second battlefields, there are too many enemies there, so the battle won't end quickly." "In that case, let's go and support them, anyway, the battle here is over," Obito said. Chapter 360. Hearing Obito's words, Tsunade glanced at him and said, "Uchiha kid, don't get too complacent, you may die on the battlefield at any time." Hearing this, Obito stopped smiling and said, "Of course, I know that. The war between ninjas isn't child's play. No one knows whether they can come back alive or die on the battlefield, Everyone who went there was ready to die. Obito said seriously, I have already realized this last time. Seeing Obito's eyes, Tsunade nodded, well, if you want to support them, go to the second battlefield and help Kakashi. Okay, I will go, Obito nodded. Tsunade looked at Allan and asked, do you want to help? At this time, Allan once again had a choice. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Go support the other battlefields, reward, Kusanagi no Tsurugi. 2. You've done your part, stay back and rest, reward, C rank wind ninjutsu. Allan chose the first option without a second thought. Kusanagi no Tsurugi was a great sword. Okay, I'm going to support them. Hearing Allan's agreement, Tsunade and Obito were happy. After all, Allan was strong and can help greatly. It was because of him that the battle here ended so quickly after all. Knowing that Allan and Obito were going to support the other battlefields, several Jonin came back and expressed their desire to help as well. Tsunade looked at Allan and said, Allan, you lead them, let's go to the other battlefields. Where do we go? Allan asked. He wasn't familiar with the situation on the front line. Tsunade said, Minato is on the first battlefield, let's go to the second where Kakashi is. Although the kid is promoted to Jonin, he is still young and doesn't have enough battle experience. Okay, let's go support Kakashi and the others, Allan nodded. On the way, Allan had a simple conversation with different people there and had a preliminary understanding of their abilities. There are 4 eye-catching Jonins, the first was Shinkawai, the second was Junto Sarutobi, the third was Akamichi Akira, and the last one was Hyuga Takeshi. 3 of the 4 were from the Shinobi clan and the first one was the father of Kurane Ui. Adding Obito, they would have 2 dojutsu users, 4 clan members, and a genjutsu expert. After an hour, the group reached the second battlefield, which was located in a gorge surrounded by mountains. Sarutobi said, the terrain here is complicated, there are many places to hide and launch sneak attacks, completely different from our previous battlefield, so be careful. Alright, spread out. They acted in a group of 2, Ui and Sarutobi, Akimichi and Hyuga. Obito was with Allan. Allan touched the ground with 2 fingers as he tried to locate the enemies. However, since Allan couldn't tell whether they were enemies or friends, he couldn't attack directly. Allan was able to sense Kakashi's position, since he trained with him, he was familiar with his chakra signature. Obito, you can go help Kakashi, Allan said to Obito. No problem, but I don't know where he is. I have already located him. After telling Obito Kakashi's exact location, Allan watched him leave, then he started attacking every enemy he encounters. To determine if they were enemies or allies, all he had to do was look at their forehead protectors. Allan held the Kusanagi no Tsurugi in his hand as he attacks the rock ninjas. There are 11 Kusanagi swords in total, each had a different special effect. The Kusanagi sword Allan could emit flames. In a flash, Allan was already behind a rock ninja and waved his sword. The rock ninja noticed and reacted directly. Allan sneered and slashed his sword. The sword in the rock ninja's hand snapped in half as it met the Kusanagi. The rock ninja didn't expect this and was stunned as Allan's sword fell on him. Flames suddenly appeared all over the rock ninja as he fell down to the ground dead. Allan was satisfied with the Kusanaga's power. Alright, let's continue. Allan's figure flashed around the battlefield as he took out enemies quickly. On the other side of the battlefield, Obito soon reached Kakashi who was fiercely fighting 2 rock ninjas. They were both Chunins, but they weren't weak. In a 2-on-1 fight, Kakashi wasn't faring well. Kakashi was a genius for a reason, and he could analyze his opponent's strengths and weaknesses quickly in the midst of battle. Also, Kakashi had his Sharingan given by Obito. Still, fighting 2-on-1 was tough. Kakashi blocked a strike again, but this time, the other ninja seized this opportunity to attack a blind spot. At this critical time, Obito reached Kakashi and helped block the sneak attack successfully.